Tornado Tag Podcast. We are live. Episode 169. Tough Enough.
69.
69. That's our Howard Stern.
Whoa.
How is the title of this episode not nice?
Yeah.
I guess it was 100 episodes ago.
69. Nice.
What would that show be about? Nice. There has to be a wrestler with nice in the name. I can't think of any.
Or we just talked about like all inappropriate things on TV.
Oh, okay.
Like
So got blown. No.
like live sex shows, and stuff like that. Anyway,
Robert Parker.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Tough Enough, and we're gonna try to not do a full coverage of every single season.
No.
We'll talk about the highlights. I don't know how or why, but I binge watched.
Yeah,
all
you got. That's
Yeah,
you're
I
mad
was
man.
shocked. Yeah.
Insomnia is a helpful tool if you want to do that.
Some is good. Some is not so good.
I didn't mind a lot of it.
I thought that we'll get into. I thought the height was the MTV season.
Yeah.
When it was.
Season-
1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
If you want to support the podcast, iwepnetwork.com. You can head over and check out the rest of our shows. If you want to support Tornado Tag, we do have a Patreon. I had some people on the interviews. So we had a Patreon and then closed it and then reopened it again and made it separate for each podcast. If you want to support this podcast, it's as little as $1. You can do up to like 5, 10, whatever you want to do. Also on the Anchor side or Spotify, you can support through the audio that way. If you do it that way, because someone did for interviews at Everyday People, and then I said, I just can't control that. Like, I can't give you anything extra. If you're a Patreon, I can.
Mhm.
And he goes, oh, I don't care. I'm just happy to support.
No,
And I
that's
go,
nice to
I was like, thank you. So we do have people slowly coming back to the Patreon, which helps because that pays for StreamYard. That helps pay for the network because it costs money to keep the website and all that other fun things. We do have a lot of cool things that we want to do when it comes to we've been doing the vlogs. I would like to get another GoPro and some accessories so it makes it so we can like mount it to places because not all places is a place you can just mount a tripod.
Yeah.
And if you have like a clamp or something, it can help out a lot. So we can get a lot more coverage and fun things with some accessories. And
Or like the Tom Mitchell interview. Doing, hey, Brian, hold this.
Yeah, Brian, hold this for as long as I talk, which I hate doing to people. What are we going on here? Jake says, what's up, Anthony? And hello, Cass. Thank you, Jakey.
Jakey Bakey.
Jakey Bakey. He's from the Tantalizing Tony show. A lot of people come over, cross over from there because Tony's been gracious enough to let me come on his network and his show and talk to the people. So thank you if you're here for that. Also, if you're listening, head over to our social medias, all social media, Tornado Tag Podcast, and help us with a subscriber over on the YouTube side. We're trying to grow that. Share this stream out. Hit the like. And that's pretty much all I got. Oh, merchandise. If you want some merchandise, go grab some merchandise, get some wares. We have a new logo coming. So the new logo that's coming is going to be our main logo. And then all of the talent logos are still going to come, but they won't be predominant. They'll be like special one-off.
We could say default logo.
Our default logo. Thank you. Yeah. And it's going to be really, really cool.
Could be on the home jersey.
Haley Stokes doing the art. Also, if you heard the stream start music, Billy Trey. We're going to feature Billy Trey's music. We have like 4 or 5 different songs.
Local artist
Who does the intro music for not only our podcast, but he's making new music for the rest of our podcasts that we have on the network as well.
Aside, how about Eddie Collins going on tour with Anthrax? Helping him out, yeah. He's like a roadie.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That family is unbelievably talented. Billy Trey, I think a lot of what you're hearing in the intro music, that's all him. Like he records every single track.
That's crazy.
He's
talented to do everything.
Not even with instruments. He's using his mouth for everything.
Yeah, he's like the guy
It's
from
what do they call acapella?
Yeah, he's like Police Academy.
Yeah, or Carmen San Diego. Doo-wop, doop-dap, doo-wop.
But and then hang out for our topic we're going to get into right now. But at the end of the show, we'll cover current events and break down some of the news that's going on this week. And we have a lot. We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Busy week.
Yeah.
Busy week. They all are lately. There hasn't been a lot of slow news weeks.
Yeah.
Because somebody had to pay people a lot of money.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's caused a lot of change in wrestling.
Yeah. Inappropriate money is making wrestling better. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
You know, with a lot that's been going on these last couple months, it's almost enough to make you think there might be justice in this world. I still don't believe it, but we're almost there.
We're getting there.
We're
Johnny
almost
Ace
there.
got fired, so
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's break
When
down.
FBI raids Titan Tower, I might start believing.
Well, let's get into Tough Enough. Brian,
I'm not tough enough. No,
you're not?
no, not even.
who is tough enough? Hit that song from the 80s. Are you tough enough?
So let's kick it to you here quick first. Tough Enough. If you're not familiar, Tough Enough, if you're like, what the hell are you guys talking about? Tough Enough was
Let me set the thing here because we got to go back to this was filmed in 2000, aired in 2001, and if you're a younger person in our audience, you got to realize reality TV wasn't as everywhere as it is right now.
Yeah.
Really, the reality TV boom that we have now started in 2000 and started with Survivor. Survivor, the first season came out, and it was like the biggest thing on television.
Mhm.
Like it was all people would talk about. And before that, the only real reality shows you had were the Real World and the Road Rules.
Loved Real World.
Road Rules was fun too.
Never
Because
watched them.
Road
I know The
Rules
Miz
was
was
just
on.
like
I ate them up.
a bunch of like 20-something people driving across the country to Winnebago doing weird stuff. And that was Road Rules.
And then they had the challenge series.
The challenge is huge now. It's bigger than Road Rules hasn't existed in forever. I don't even think they do the Real World anymore. They just do the challenge.
Didn't they cross over? Then?
Yeah, they would
Yeah.
take like the road rules versus real world challenges, and they would take people from each cast and battle them out.
And now it's just like Survivor. People are on an Amazing Race, Big Brother. They're all on the challenge.
Yeah.
now. But yeah, so CBS owns all these things. They own MTV. They own Survivor and everything. And WWF at the time, now WWE, was really, really, really hot. And there was a TV deal in, I believe, 1999 would have been the year, or early 2000. They had a deal where WWF left the USA Network very famously. I think it was 2000 now that I think of it. They left the USA Network and they signed with TNN, which was
Yes.
going to become Spike TV, which is now the Paramount Network.
It just became the national network. It
Yeah.
was the country music channel.
Yeah.
It was the Nashville network. Then it was the national network. And it's funny because ECW was on that.
They're on Sci-Fi, right?
What?
ECW.
Oh, no, not
No.
not at this point. No. This,
ECW is on TNN.
this was the real ECW. Was on
Yeah.
TNN when it was still the Nashville network. And then they wanted something bigger, so they got USA. They got USA's deal was up, so they were like, "Let's get WWF."
Yeah.
And then ECW was like, "Oh, what do we do?" And
You're
then-
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, they kicked them off.
And then USA had that period where they did not have wrestling.
So it was going to go right around the time Raw was
I don't
gonna
think I
start.
ever watched WWE when it was not on USA. I think at this point
Oh,
I was
wow.
not watching.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
So-
and then if you go on the network, there is ECW on TNN.
Yeah.
There's a whole thing of that.
There was a whole point where they were supposed to go from the Nashville Network to Spike TV.
Yeah.
But Spike Lee, the filmmaker, sued and said, "You're trying to cash in on my brand," and got an injunction to keep it from becoming Spike TV for a few months. And that's when it became like the national network,
Yeah.
because they wanted to shed that country music history. But the reason we're bringing it up is TNN was owned by CBS Viacom, and another CBS Viacom cable company cable network was MTV. As a matter of fact, Sunday Night Heat moved from USA to MTV. And MTV was, like I said, the reality show place. So they said, let's do a reality show about wrestling. Enter Tough Enough, where
Was this pre or post Ultimate Fighter?
I would say
Pre.
pre.
this
I
was
don't-
right before first season of Tough Enough was probably right before the Ultimate Fighter. But yeah,
Okay.
because Raw was on TNN, because the thing that got the Ultimate Fighter really big
Was the Ultimate Fighter?
was Raw.
Oh yeah. What really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was right. It was like it led into it.
Yeah, and Vince said he regretted it because he could have stopped UFC's ascension before it started, because that came on after all. People stuck around, and those became like the big MMA fans.
Yeah.
Because before that, UFC was never on live TV. They did a tape show that was on like Fox Sports 2, and that was the only like free TV thing they ever did. And then the Ultimate Fighter finale was the next one, and that was huge. They had the big Stephan Bonner Forrest Griffin fight that launched UFC into like this big deal.
Yeah.
And
Reality television essentially launched probably one of the biggest sports in the world right now.
it's not as big as it used to be.
It's still pretty big.
But yeah, Tough Enough would have predated the Ultimate Fighter, and this was really like the opening of the curtain. And the whole idea was like one man and one woman will win and become WWE contracted talent.
Which did not stick through the rest of the seasons.
I don't know if it stuck for the
Yeah.
first season.
It did for the first season.
Yeah, I
for-
mean,
yeah.
they said like one man, one woman. Then the
Yeah.
season 2, they didn't really say anything.
Yeah.
They
It
just
could
like
be two people.
they
might
gave
be
it to
one.
two women,
Yeah.
and then the next season was two men.
Well, it could be. We're gonna have two contracts. Anybody could win. Was
Yeah.
the idea.
Yeah.
Then season 4, they made sure it was separated between men and women
Mhm.
because Tough
Well,
Enough
yeah.
was a men's TV show, and then Ultimate Divas was their
Diva
own-
Search.
Diva
Search.
Yeah.
And Tough Enough was on SmackDown. Diva Search was on.
Then
Raw.
5, they went back to Tough Enough with men and women.
Yeah. Then there was a big gap for.
Yeah, there's a big gap between 3 and 4 because I think by that point they were leaving MTV.
So I
And
think
there was
the
a big
best way
gap
to do
between
this
4
is
and
let's
5.
break it down by season 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
4,
the
then
MTV
5
era.
and 6.
Yeah, the MTV era, the not a TV show, and then the USA era.
Real World spawned The Miz, and he made himself known from that show. Absolutely, yeah. We're definitely going to get into that.
Also on Tough Enough.
Yep. I'm here, Anthony. I'm here on your channel. Thank you, Mick Thomas. You're the man. All right. Yes. So the first 3 seasons, I enjoyed. It is very interesting watching people who you're like, oh, they did cool shit, and then you're watching like they didn't win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Also with reality television and pro wrestling, because it's ruined me as a human being. Nothing's real, right? So you have to kind
Yeah.
of look at it like the rumor was they found Kelly Clarkson performing, and they brought her in and like, hey, we're gonna do this reality show, but you're pretty much gonna win it all.
I believe that.
Yeah, like a lot of these shows, they kind of already have their ringers. you
Yeah,
know?
they well again. It's Vince.
That really comes to playing Tough Enough in
the-
one season. We'll talk about.
Yeah,
later.
the hot girls and the bigger guys. Obviously, Vince is gonna have a hard on. For them,
Yeah, and
so.
then they have a couple goofy guys that may slip through the cracks.
Yeah, so they had their people they wanted to win, and they kind of guided them to win.
Sorry to ruin the illusion.
Yeah.
With that all being said, if they brought this back, I'd watch it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I would love it.
The funny thing you say that there was a Canadian show called World of Hurt, and it wasn't a competition. It was just like a reality show without like there's going to be a winner. And it was Lance Storm in his wrestling school with a bunch of people he used to train and some other people. And Lance Storm was like, yeah, it was so phony because at the end of the thing, he was like, they would always do the same thing. Be like, you want to know why you haven't made it in wrestling? He said, I told one person that, and they used it for every single person on that show. He's like, the only thing in the world faker than professional wrestling is reality TV.
Yeah.
That's what Lance Storm said.
Yeah, I love when other people outside the wrestling world go, you watch that? You know that's all fake, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know everything you consume is fake?
Yeah.
Everything. All of it. It's all fucking fake.
Remember that documentary series, Lord of the Rings?
Yeah. Fake. Remember, your favorite TV show that you probably watch?
Yeah.
Scripted and fake. I love, what was the one that's on with Storage Wars, where they're like, that's
yeah.
all set up, and they're like, no shit. Ryan Vox in the chat. What's going on, Vox? All right. So season 1, your coaches are going to be Al Snow, which, oh my God, if you don't watch these first 3 seasons and fall in love with Al Snow, you're crazy. He's such a lovable human.
And they did use Taz a lot.
Yeah,
too.
Taz
Al
was in-
Snow was the good cop. Taz was the bad cop.
Yeah.
Taz was in season
Like that
1.
one where it's real early, and then Taz comes at like 7 a.m. or something. It's like, oh, they're up all night, and Taz is coming in the morning.
Yeah, Taz was in season 1 alongside
Jacqueline and Tori.
Jacqueline and Tori. There's one where another girl comes in, and I forget
Ivory.
who she.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Ivory. It was another one.
Ivory was on one of the later seasons, I know.
This one was an early one. I just remember it was a blonde.
Tori might have been Tori.
Tori?
I remember. Maybe. I have a terrible memory.
No.
The whole every show she's in, her boobs are like all over the place. But she didn't really talk as a coach. She was almost like mute. She didn't say a word.
That sounds like Tori to me.
It might have been Tori then. But yeah, so season 1, do you have some of the highlights of people? Oh, well, actually, here's a question for you. Andy.
We'll mention the winners, and then
Where were you age-wise, Tough Enough 1?
so then if it's 2000, I'm roughly like 18.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
it came out in 2001. Like,
Yeah,
it was
so
a weird
19.
thing. Yeah,
You weren't in the stages of
Yeah.
wrestling yet?
No, I wasn't wrestling yet. Plus, I was smart enough to know, like, if you're under 6 foot, you're probably not gonna win it.
Yeah.
And like, I could have did it. I would have been like when.
Did you think about taking the ride to New York?
No,
No.
I when I first seen it, I was like, well, that's cool. I was like, yeah, probably not gonna. go
Watching it
nowhere.
back, there's some people we know
Yeah.
in those audition
yeah.
tapes.
At least one I know of.
Yeah. And then some of the people who tried out, you're like, oh, they went on to do
Yeah.
independent stuff. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, the whole thing with Tough Enough is the losers have done way more than the winners.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
By far the most successful person ever on Tough Enough finished second,
Yeah.
and the season wasn't even on real TV.
Yeah. That's going to be the trend here, is that Tough Enough maybe found people, but didn't always award them for their TV
Yeah.
deal.
And a lot of times people won, but did they really win?
Dude, the UFC, if you win the Ultimate Fighter, they will hang on to you as long as they possibly can, because they want to say like a champion came out of this TV
Yeah,
show. Where
or-
the WWE just like they didn't even make TV.
It
like
was still
get
very
out.
Vince if he didn't like it for some reason, or if he did one thing. Like,
Do you think it's one of those things where Vince just didn't watch the product? He approved it to be a thing, but didn't watch it, and then
Yeah.
when they came, he's like, "Why would you hire this guy?"
and if you say Garen Damn T in a promo, and you're immediately done.
Oh, is that what happened to that guy?
Yep. That was
He
what
said
did it.
Garen Damn T.
Mhm. And Vince even says something immediately because he's there while he's cutting the
Did
promo.
he just say Garen Damn
Yeah.
T?
And then he was done after that.
That'll do it. All right. Well, season 1. Who are some of the highlight names here?
From like a they had success standpoint, or from
Just in general.
I know one of the people who was like a star of the show was Wendell. He was a guy who was like kind of out of shape, and he was a slacker, and like a few people dropped out before him, but I think he was the first one to actually get cut. I don't think he did anything in wrestling.
Yeah.
But as far as I mean, this one had some fairly successful
Yeah,
winners.
if you go to Wikipedia, they actually have the order of elimination. So there was a
Oh, wow.
Tom, Jason, Bobby Joe, Daryl.
Jason, I remember, was a big bald guy. Like if you would have seen the cast, just picture them. Oh,
Yeah.
Jason's gonna win.
Yeah, there was a Shadrick, Paulina, Greg, Chris Nifong, Taylor, Chris Nowinski, who did go on to wrestle for WWE
Yeah.
then, and then he unfortunately had his concussion problems, and Josh.
Taylor got into stunt performing, like
And-
she was stunt woman.
Yeah.
Long time, very long time now, wife of Brian Kendrick.
Oh wow. And then of course Nydia and Maven. were
Nydia
the
and Maven
winners
were your
of
winners,
this
yeah.
one.
Four
She's
people,
still currently.
I believe they are.
Oh, wow.
I don't know for certain, but I believe they're still married.
Chad was a guy who on the show was billed from Reading, Pennsylvania.
Chris,
Was it Chris?
Greg, not Greg.
Greg. I'm
Greg,
sorry,
yeah.
Greg Whittemore. He had 3 herniated discs, which forced him off the show.
Yeah,
which
and then he wrestled afterward anyway.
which is my question is like I'm sure they had injuries and stuff, but like sometimes when you look at it, you're like, how much of this was part of the
Yeah,
TV show?
Yeah. Who knows?
I would love to have like if this person's still around and willing to like do interviews.
Oh, interview him.
Like
in
I
the
would be like,
process?
what's your experience? If I would have, once again, I have to fucking grow balls. It just comes down to I have to be more ballsy. Like there's so many names on here I probably
Yeah.
could have reached out to or searched and be like, can you talk about and just come on for a little bit and talk about your tough
Yeah.
enough experience?
I
But
mean,
I
like-
also didn't want to have you guys prep in your mind for a show and then I have a guest on and that's all we
Yeah.
talk about as a guest. But if anyone's still aware of Greg,
he
if
did
he's
wrestle for quite a while in
still alive.
CZW
Yeah.
as Tough Enough Greg Matthews, and he would frequently either wrestle or team with somebody who's not still alive, Rockin' Rebel.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a whole thing, if you were familiar with indie wrestling in Pennsylvania in the early 2000s. Rockin' Rebel was a fixture on a lot of shows,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and
Ryan Vox, I started wrestling after I broke my back.
Oh.
the whole deal was Rebel had a promoter's license
Mhm.
and had that $10,000 bond that you need to have to promote a wrestling show
Yeah.
in Pennsylvania. And you could use his license for a bit of a fee. And, oh, you got to book me and whoever I want to wrestle.
Yeah.
And it was usually Greg Matthews.
yeah, or whoever. I remember when I started, he had a tag team, and that might have been Greg.
yeah, they
I
teamed for a while. It was
can't
like
remember.
Rebels Army, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then someone else came out of this show, and they're brothers because they clearly have the same last name, Matthews. Another name that came out of the show, Josh Lomenberger, Lomberger, who then we know as Josh Matthews.
A good name change.
Yeah.
The whole rap on him, and this is maybe why he became an announcer. He was good in the ring on the show for like a new guy, but he didn't have a lot of size.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And-
especially then.
and he was goofy.
2001,
Like he had a personality to him that people liked
which sometimes in WWE can hurt you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As dumb as that sounds.
because he was kind of a goofball.
Yeah.
Later on in the season, you're gonna see there's a guy who's interviewing the winners at the season Tough Enough finale, and he has an earpiece in, and he's a backstage interviewer, and it's Josh. So Josh did transition to
Yeah.
that backstage interview commentary role, which now he's still currently a part of, I believe, Impact. Correct?
No, I think Josh works for AEW now, doesn't he?
No, Madison Rain does. Josh works.
Oh
for
yeah,
AEW.
he's married to Madison Rain.
I could
Sorry.
possibly see if his contract comes up, he can possibly jump over. I don't mind Josh Matthews on commentary.
Josh Matthews is a kind of a high level guy in Impact, though. Not that he might not leave, but I think he might be back announcing. And if he's not, no, he's not announcing. I think he produces the announcers.
Okay.
Because their main announcers are Tom Hannafin, who's formerly Tom Phillips in
Yeah,
WWE,
the
and
tall guy.
Matthew Rewalt, who was Aiden English.
Yeah, very, very. I'm a fan of him. I got to not so much talk exclusively to him, but we did see him at PPW
Yeah.
during the Impact shows.
Yeah, he would be he would be a big point person for a lot of those. And then another guy that was a very important person in wrestling, maybe not for what he did in the ring, but he was one of the guys on the show. Most of the people who were on this cast were not trained wrestlers. They were people who may have had a few months in wrestling school, but they weren't regular wrestlers. Chris Nowinski was a guy who was training at the Kowalski School at the time. And Kowalski may have still had a hand in it, but I think it might have been like Slick Wagner Brown or John
Yeah.
Walters or somebody at that point. that was
Obviously,
doing most
that
of the
age, he's
training.
not doing day-to-day
Yeah.
training.
But Chris Nowinski, who legitimately went to Harvard, legitimately a Harvard graduate, played football at Harvard. Big guy. He wasn't like cut. He wasn't like on steroids, you could tell. Had a little bit of extra pounds around him, but he was in good shape.
Mhm.
He was athletic. And he was kind of the villain of the first season of Tough Enough because he came off as arrogant and kind of a dick and pompous,
Which, how
Playing
much
a
of that
character a little bit, yeah.
is your
Playing a
TV?
character.
Yeah.
And so he was on there, and he was one of the runners up because they had a final 5, and they were going to have one male winner out of these 3, one female winner out of these 2, and it was Nowinski, Josh Matthews, the eventual winner Maven, and on the women's side it was Taylor Matheny, who winds up being Taylor Matheny Kendrick now.
Yeah.
And then the winner there was Nydia.
Yeah, and there was another girl on this that unfortunately dropped out due to injuries and stuff, but a little bit of coordination issues, at least on the show. But Paulina, who was like 6 foot.
She was very tall.
She was like 6'4" or something, or 6
I think
foot
they would have been
2.
like, whoa.
Well, here's the funny thing
her.
about it is she's like over 5'11", she's 6 foot,
Mhm.
and she clearly looks different from everyone else. And this is a point where they're like, we just want her because essentially she's just huge.
Yeah.
She
Be the
did
next China.
Yeah, she did appear in TNA as a bodyguard for Disco Inferno for 2 shows in 2002. She was a project marketer in New York, and she also tried out for American Gladiators, and
that
has
came
also
back to
seen
haunt me.
as a musician in some pictures. But the crazy thing is, this is Tough Enough season 1, where anyone over 5'11", 6 foot for the women's division was huge. And now you look at WWE now, and they have like 5 women over 6 foot.
Yeah, a few.
Yeah.
But back to Nowinski. So he gets signed. The people who out of the show who got signed were Maven, Nydia, obviously Nowinski, and Matthew, Josh Matthews. As
The
well.
other Chris too. He got an OVW deal.
Oh, Chris Nafong. Okay.
Yeah.
But Nowinski's actually on TV,
Mhm.
and he's like the pompous Harvard guy. Infamously, when the Iraq War started, they did a debate between Chris Nowinski and Scott Steiner, where like Chris Nowinski's giving these very nuanced things like about, well, America doesn't do preemptive strikes, and this is a war for, like, he's giving this like very left-wing talking point thing about why we shouldn't go to war. And then Scott Steiner's like, this is America, home of the free, we're going to drop bombs on them. And the crowd's just going nuts.
Yeah.
So Trump. He was Trump before.
It's so pro wrestling. But Nowinski winds up in a feud with Tommy Dreamer. And there's a thing where, like, I think Nowinski got thrown through a chalkboard or something because he was in a classroom. And he got a really bad concussion that ended his career. And he really devotes the rest of his life to this day to studying the effects of concussions on athletes. Like
Ryan Vox says, I'm donating my brain to his foundation.
Yeah, the Sports Legacy, let's just change its name, the Sports Legacy Institute, where a lot of wrestlers have donated their brains, and athletes too. There was, I don't know if it was Junior Seau. No, it was because a lot of, it may have been Junior Seau as well.
Who's the one that, didn't the guy who shot himself?
A lot of NFL players that have had.
He purposely shot himself in the chest so he can.
I believe it was Dave Duerson. It might have been Seau as well.
Yeah.
But Dave Duerson, who played for the New England Patriots, shot himself in the chest so they could examine his brain.
Because he said that he knew that there was something wrong with him.
Yeah.
Like he was having mood swings, he had anger problems, he had memory loss. Like everything about his personality said he knew it wasn't him. And I guess at that time when he was going to doctors and saying like there's something wrong with my brain, they're like, you're fine, you're fine. Your bell's just wrong. Your bell's just wrong. And it was, and I mean The Blind Side, right? Not The Blind Side, the Will Smith movie.
I'm not sure.
There's Will Smith made a movie about some athlete where he had concussion issues, and it was like him stepping up to the sports industry.
I think it's literally called concussion.
Yeah, and he's just like, "Yo, we need to start protecting people." You know what I mean? But yeah, it's weird what traumatic brain injuries can do to you. But so let's go to our winners here quick. Our winners are Nydia and Maven.
My dear personal friend.
Dear personal friend Maven.
Who maybe one of the most successful winners.
Yeah, of the winners. He's probably the second most successful winner Tough Enough's ever had.
Yeah, he did. He was with them for 4 years. He got released in July of 2005.
And he's having a research on the indie scene.
He's going to be officiating the ceremonies when the Cardonas renew their vows at the next GCW show.
And most famously, he eliminated The Undertaker and the Royal Rumble, and they had the whole brawl for the rest of it.
Probably not. I don't know. This is fucking StreamYard all day long. Like my internet, no problem. There
We're
it is.
back.
Sorry. So I was saying, Tough Enough reunion when they would get those vows renewed. Who we'll talk about another contestant later on, who is going to be part of that ceremony. We don't know what's going on. My internet hasn't changed all day. It's fine. It's just for some reason, StreamYard just likes to cut in and out on us. We apologize.
No, Nydia lasted for 3 years. She would stay there until November 2004.
Nydia had a very fun run with Jamie.
Yeah, her when she was Trailer Trash, Jamie Noble, that was pretty good stuff.
She was like the queen. They hit the lottery and she had all this money and she had like this gaudy fur coat. And then she went blind because Tajiri misted her. But then like she was only pretending to go blind, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't wrestle much, but she was a pretty entertaining character.
Yeah, the Nydia Jamie Noble pairing was a lot of fun. They made the most out of those characters. When I talk about like Repo Man and somebody like that, where you have a silly character but you make the most out of it.
Yeah,
that was definitely.
I always liked her look. I liked her hair.
So then we go to season 2 of Tough Enough. It was a success for sure, and they're like, let's do that again. So with season 2, you had some people who tried out. Some of the most successful people in this were the tryouts that didn't make it.
Yeah,
Shad Gaspard of Crime Time.
Well, he did make it.
Shad Gaspard did make it.
He did. He makes the final 13, but the day they all show up to the house, everyone's like, "Where's Shad?"
Oh, it's
and Shad failed a physical, which they said they never really disclosed what he failed, but he was not on the show because of a failed physical.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but he was one of the finalists, or one of the contestants to go on.
John Hennigan, who we'll talk about in a little bit, he was one of the final 25 but didn't make it.
John was one of those guys I think they looked at and said, we are already kind of set for the season, but let's keep him in our back pocket for the future.
Shelly Martinez, who would be Ariel later. She was the vampire in ECW.
Yeah, Salinas
in TNA, one of the worst matches ever, her and Rebel.
Yeah.
From AEW.
Yeah.
So Harker Holly.
How'd you know? Hey, one viewer already.
Was a
Hold on. That's awesome.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Hold on. Still having issues. This is great. Internet problems, everyone. Sorry, we do apologize. And we're back. Sorry
out
about
of the
that.
Phantom Zone.
Watch the line.
Jesus Christmas.
I was just hanging out with John Cena in the Phantom Zone.
No idea what
Remember that?
happened there. We do apologize. StreamYard is just helping us out so much here. All right.
The
So
wonders of service electric cable.
I don't know how much of it's that, or who knows. We'll figure it out. But anyway, I don't exactly know where we left
Season
off.
2 of Tough
Season
Enough.
2.
Season 1 was a rousing success. People liked it.
We talked
People
about
were really
everyone
into it.
who didn't make it.
Yeah. We were talking about the John Hennigans, Shag Gaspard made it, but then failed a physical. Mr. Anderson, everyone those. So some of the people that did make it here, Matt Morgan, who had a fairly good career, probably had the second best career, or best depending on your. He had a bit of a run in WWE. He had a little bit of a run in TNA. He was on this, and he's a guy where if you're looking, he wasn't as chiseled as he would be later. He got a lot more cut. He was a little had a little more excess weight on him, I think, during the Tough Enough part, and that's part of the reason he had to go out. He tore a ligament in his right knee, and he was probably one of the favorites. Jake, who didn't really do a whole lot in wrestling, I think he was more of a bodybuilder. He's on
the weird hair.
He had like the sting hair. Yeah, he had like
Yeah.
the spiky blonde hair. He looked like a 1980s wrestler straight from Central Casting.
Now, if you want to talk about the most successful person that has connections in professional wrestling on this season,
Are you talking about Jesse Ward?
we're talking about Jessie Ward.
Yeah. Well, she had a good career in her own right. Let's just not.
Yeah,
Let's
absolutely.
not like talk to her about her. It's just who she's married to. She is married to Tommaso Ciampa.
Behind every man is a great woman.
But she did a lot in production. She worked for WWE after Tough Enough ended. After the season, she knew wrestling wasn't for her. She wasn't really built for it. Didn't have the body for it,
very
especially
tiny.
at that level. But she loved it, and she loved video production. So she was a backstage producer in WWF and then later TNA. So she and other non-wrestling stuff too. So she had a very good career, despite not really being able to. She was actually cut because she was diagnosed with a heart condition. So
Oh boy.
it wasn't just her size; it was that. In fact, she said that the show saved her life. It would have gone unnoticed if they didn't test it out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it worked out well for her. Still has family in the business.
She has done tons. She has done many independent films for the History Channel, Discovery Channel,
Yeah.
and Animal Planet,
Mhm.
and currently producing a show called Cajun Pawn Stars, North Woods Law, and Big Brother. She's also married to current WWE talent Tommaso Ciampa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Hawk was kind of the comic relief on this one. He was like the wacky guy. He shaved his head, and
Here's a question. Kind of going back and watching it, I get times were different, but essentially, every season kind of has that one person everyone attaches to, and they essentially bully.
Yeah.
Hawk's that guy. Like even the coach, like you can tell when there's like we care about you bullying, and then there's times where maybe it goes over the line a little bit. And this Hawk guy, I think it messed with him a little bit that he was kind of the brunt of the joke on. Once again, pro wrestling could all be fake. Go out there and play a character. We're gonna do fun things. But at points I was watching, I was like, man, I kind of feel bad for this guy. Like they're pretty hard on him. Yeah, obviously he might have some like there was times where he would like walk off and talk to himself, but once again.
Is that real?
Is that real or is it not? But yeah, so he was an interesting character.
And maybe the person that's had the most consistent career in wrestling out of this was one of the final four is down to Jake, who we talked about, and also Kenny, who would go on to be Kenny King, longtime member of the All Night Express and Ring of Honor, multi-time, I believe, ROH Tag Team Champion. Maybe even had a TV title run there. Kenny King was definitely, I would say, probably the most talented wrestler out of this group. You can argue him and Matt Morgan, but Kenny King had a very good career. And then the big controversy here is they said, it's not necessarily going to be a male and a female winner. And lo and behold, 2 women win this season of Tough Enough.
Probably a bad choice looking back.
Yeah.
Not because of two women, but because of the two women they picked.
Because of the two women, yeah.
Yeah.
If you would have had one of them and Kenny King, I think the people would back on this
Yeah.
a little better. You had Linda Miles, who was very tall. She was another one, I think, if not over 6 feet, right there. Former college basketball player.
I hate the wrestling name they gave her. They
Shaniqua,
gave her.
yeah.
Yeah, gave her. Yeah.
Do you know her, like, what her kind of gimmick was?
No, I can only imagine.
She managed and sometimes teamed with a team called the Bashams, Doug and Danny Basham, and she was kind of like their almost like a dominatrix.
Yeah, and there were two bald-headed white guys look very similar.
Yeah, the Basham
She was
brothers.
the dominate. Shaniqua, the dominatrix.
Yeah, and a funny thing about them, when they brought them up as a tag team, they were feuding in OVW against each other.
Yeah, Jim Cornette was booking OVW at the time, and he was livid that they didn't give him notice. It's like because they were in a blood feud. They hated each other in OVW. It was their main feud was these two guys at each other's throats. Like imagine if PPW was a developmental territory for the WWE, and then right before the show this weekend on Raw this past Monday, they would have had Bro Keller and Brian Johnson come in as a tag team.
Yeah.
As brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was bad.
But they spun it because I think the heel was Doug Basham. So they did a thing where like Doug Basham was like, I got Damage because Danny Basham was called Damage in OVW. I got him signed to WWE, but the only way he could achieve his dream of being in WWE is by pretending to be my brother and taking my name.
So you got a little bit switched
Yeah.
on it, but
So
funny side note.
Jim Cornette had to bend over backward to put logic into that because Vince really threw a wrench in it.
Because they had to go back to OVW for more matches.
Yeah.
And then another Tough Enough contestant that we met.
Yeah, Jackie Gaeta wins season 2 as well. She was one of the she was probably seen as a favorite just because she had the look
And she was
that
tough.
they were looking for.
I think she hurt her back real bad.
Yeah.
And went to the doctor and like, yeah, you have some damage. And she's like, I'm not quitting.
She was also part of the
Or no, her knee. It was her knee.
kind of the reality TV drama of this season because she had a boyfriend at home and then
Oh,
she
yeah.
spent time in a hot tub with one of the guys on the show. And
My favorite part about it is like they were doing everything but sealing the deed in that jacuzzi. Like even people were
I'm
like
sure probably someone did, yeah.
hands were roaming, things
Yeah.
were going down. And then she calls him, she's like, I made a mistake. I gave him a peck on the lips like one
Yeah.
time. And I'm like, that's not gonna age well for you when you go back
No,
home.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she did wind up marrying Charlie Haas, and they
Well, that wasn't her boyfriend at the time.
no,
was it?
no. They met in WWE, and but they had a family. I mean, they've since split up, but
Yeah.
they had a good run,
And
as you could say.
Linda lasted for 2 years. She got released in 2004, and Jackie Gaeta lasted for 3 years. She got released in 2005.
Yeah, she was I mean, she's
Neither-
infamously known for having
Really bad match.
a really bad match where with Trish Stratus in a mixed tag where the finish was particularly bad. There was a flying bulldog, but she landed after Trish landed in the bulldog. And then Linda Miles had the Shaniqua run. Jackie Gaeta also managed Charlie Haas and Rico as a tag team, and yeah, wound up. I think she wound up with a run in TNA too for a while.
Yeah, but that was really about it. There were 2 winners that did hardly anything. Like
Yeah.
no titles, no nothing. I mean, look at.
Well, I mean, you're booking 2 women to win a contest in a time where you didn't give a shit about the women.
Yeah.
Well, you did, but you did for more of a Jackie Gaeta type. I'm wondering. I guess I thought Linda Miles might become like a China,
Yeah.
but then again, she didn't really adapt to wrestling.
I wonder how much they had their sights set on the tall blonde, and then it just didn't work out because she wasn't that good. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Yeah.
You never know. You never know.
Or her injury prevented her. Because I mean, regardless of anything, if someone gets hurt on the show, you get hurt on the show. So even if you're
Yeah.
their front runner and you blow your ACL,
Yeah,
They
out,
may have had eyes on Matt Morgan. Yeah.
yeah,
Because he's tall. His Matt Morgan's like 6'10", something like that.
But then again, he comes in later and he's in even better shape. He's still huge and way better shape, a better wrestler now because he's been training OVW for
yeah,
years.
his look from Tough Enough to when you see him on TV is drastically
Yeah.
different.
And so you have this big monster, almost 7 feet tall, looks like he just stepped out of chiseled out of
Yeah,
granite.
like an action movie.
So what kind of gimmick would you give that guy
Yeah.
for bringing him in?
A big guy, 6'10", looks like he just kick everyone's ass. What do you think would be real intimidating?
You'd have to give him a job, right?
No,
No,
No?
he didn't have a job.
You're gonna give him a
He had
quirk.
an
an ailment, you could say.
Is it cancelable today?
no.
No,
Oh, okay.
It's just dumb.
I mean it would be because
Yeah,
it's
ma-
not
yeah.
really something he suffers from.
Tourette's,
Close. That was gold dust.
narcolepsy.
oh, that would be good.
No, that was Mr. Hughes and it was a shoot.
I have no idea.
He had a stutter.
Oh,
He was a big badass who stuttered.
Yeah.
Did he overdo the stutter?
Of
or-
course he did. It's
Woo,
wrestling.
woo, 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 like Bubba Ray.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, why are we doing this?
Remember Goldust on Howard Stern show doing his
Yeah.
Tourette's?
Oh yeah, and he kept it the whole time.
Oh man, that wouldn't go over today.
I didn't like that either. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I remember when they had Matt Morgan in Impact and TNA, when Hogan was around, they just had him wear Hogan's old cape that he wore when he was a heel with Freddie Blassie.
Yeah.
But Matt Morgan probably had the most, or Kenny King, take your pick. They were probably the two standouts from that show of the people that made the cut.
Yeah.
Not like Mr. Anderson. Or
Yeah, because he won Money in the Bank.
Season 3,
the final MTV season.
which I will say might be my favorite of the 6 seasons.
It's a good one.
And it's your most successful winner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also had a moment on it that is talked about a lot in Tough Enough.
Yeah. Well, there's one that wasn't really explored a whole lot, but there was one moment that definitely stood out. And the saddest story in Tough Enough is in this season too.
Yeah.
2 of them actually.
Are you talking about the one girl who left the show?
No, I'm
No.
talking about the other winner.
Matt.
Oh, yeah.
Matt Capitelli.
Yeah. So one of the things here we're going to talk about, I'll just get it right off the thing here. I don't know the truth, but this is what is reported on wrestling sources and this website that we're doing. So there's a girl on the show named Lisa, and Lisa, she left because it wasn't the right career for her, and she felt like wait, hold on. She left because it wasn't the right career for her, and that's what WWE wants you to think. What they're saying here is Lisa was removed from the show because she had a psychotic breakdown where she was seen smashing herself into walls around the house. She also broke into a hidden MTV control room and worked her way onto a roof and had to be talked down from producers and committed into a hospital for the psychiatric treatment. Her parents would fly her out to pick her up, but she attacked them and claimed not to know them.
Yeah, it seemed like she had a mental break, if it's all accurate. And I remember reading that because I was kind of plugged into the dirt sheets on the internet at this point, and this stuff leaked before the show came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is really sad. I hope she's good. Like I said, I'm just reporting on what I heard on the internet. But yeah, just kind of going through. Then another guy on the show who was kind of everyone's punching bag, Scott Chong, who had alcohol problems on the show. He urinated himself. They had to drive him to the hospital for possible alcohol poisoning.
Well, I mean, this happened on reality TV.
Exactly.
A lot back then.
So who knows?
It's like Rufy from the One Real World.
I gotta be honest. This is where I think like I wouldn't be cut for reality television, because if they're like, "Hey, you're gonna bring you in and you're gonna be this person," I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that on national television."
Well, I don't think they're that blatant about it. They kind of nudge you toward that instead of saying, "Hey, you're going to play the role of the drunk guy."
Yeah.
Plus, some people are just looking for anything to make money and show business. So
Yeah, people
they'll do anything.
people I think will understand what they're looking for and then play it up without having to be guided that explicitly for it.
Yeah. This season also almost every single female on the show ended up dropping out, leaving one left, which was Jamie, which was interesting. But yeah, let's.
Yeah, this one was very top heavy.
Yeah.
You had one guy who was, like we said, the most successful winner by a lot. No offense to Maven, who's probably the second most successful winner. And then a guy who had all the potential in the world, but tragedy happened, and he didn't make it.
Wait a second. Is this the same dude that you told me that I would have been a huge fan of?
Who?
This guy on the show from ROH. You said
No, he was never in ROH.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
I don't even know who you're talking about.
Never mind then.
Dalton Castle, maybe? No, Dalton Castle was never on Tough Enough.
No, I was talking about. You said there was tragedy for a guy on this show.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that.
Yeah.
So your trainers are Al Snow and Ivory, your main trainers, and then Bill DeMott joins the show this time. The former Hugh Morris.
He's the bad guy. Well,
Yeah.
bad and good. He shows he cares after he.
Many people wrestling would just say bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people ask Luchasaurus, and he'll tell you different.
Yeah.
He hated him. Got him fired actually for the way he ran the performance center. Ask Dolph Ziggler's brother. Tell you a similar story.
There was a moment in this show that was funny where Al Snow kept ribbing them, and the one guy in particular, I guess, challenged Al to like, "I'll get you before you get me," and it was this Jonah guy. So Matt kept Al Snow kept leaving like 8x10 autographs in his bags and stuff.
That's
And he's
funny.
like he was sleeping and the guy booby trapped the whole room that you couldn't get in. So he gave it to his roommate and said, just put it on his bed. And the whole time he's like, how did Al get in there? How did Al get in there? So this is where like by the end of this season, I was like, man, I always loved Al Snow, but this put it over the top for me. Then they had a thing where they rated them and they were going to do like this whole thing where they were going to like they shave and cream bomb them the one night and then ran out. Him and Matt Tremont. And who was the guy, the heavy set guy that was
Capitelli?
Matt? Yeah, no.
Matt Tremont was never.
No, I'm sorry, not Matt Tremont. Matt Capitelli. No, I'm not thinking of who was the heavier guy who was like the guy they would go to all the time.
John Gabrick, big.
Yeah. Big him big and
who besides Tough Enough, I don't think anybody knows what the hell he did for WWF.
Yeah.
He seemed like a nice guy. Kevin Dunn, I don't know how you could take him. If I had to sit and talk to him, I'd be like,
Kevin Dunn's a piece of shit.
I'd be really distracted because he's
an ugly guy too. You can say anything negative.
What do you think about the person?
As Jim Cornette calls him, Bucky Beaver.
His mouth doesn't move when he talks?
If you think you're coming from WWE, how do you
He's the one that also said
you
Kevin
ain't-
Owens was too fat. He shouldn't get pushed.
And Becky Lynch shouldn't be a world champion because she's not attractive enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy should go away.
And he's the one that zooms in.
Yeah.
The fucking
Oh,
camera
he
cuts.
needs to go away.
I think he will.
It's a matter.
I don't think he's long for the world.
The other trainer, build him on. Them three break into the house, and then after they do the bomb where they pop the shaving cream, they come back a second time. But the second time they come back, the whole house is ready for it, and they have it like ready. So Matt jumps out, tries to steal their car.
I like that this is your takeaway from Tough Enough. You really do have the brain of a 13-year-old.
I thought it was fun. I thought it was a fun way to like have fun between the coaches and the trainers. Here's the thing: as someone who went through like 4 days and 3 days and played sports my whole life, and you have that environment where your coaches are your enemies and they treat you like shit and they just beat the shit out of you physically and mentally to the point where you're like you get to that spot where you play in a game. That's an experience that you don't have in life if you've never played sports. You know what I mean?
Right.
So watching that on Tough Enough and knowing not exactly what they go through, but knowing that like where you're fucking pissed at your coaches and everything, and then see them kind of like show that like I'm legit here for you. I'm not being a scumbag. Like I thought those were cool moments.
Yeah, no, Al Snow. Al Snow is portrayed he comes off very well on Tough Enough. For sure.
Yeah.
And Al Snow has a lot of respect
Yeah.
across the board.
And Ivory's tough too.
Yeah.
Oh, I always loved Ivory. Jacqueline was a cool coach too, but I liked Ivory a lot. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't know where we went. Go here.
You said tragedy.
Oh, okay. So this is a very top-heavy cast. The only person besides the two winners who really did anything was Jonah. And not much either. He had because he was kind of one of the personalities of the show. He was like that Northeast kind of over-the-top guy, and he, either really liked Jonah or you really didn't like Jonah. And he had a few matches in TNA like right after Tough Enough ended. But your two winners wind up being John Hennigan, who winds up having the best career of any Tough Enough winner. Johnny, whatever you want to call him. Where that whole started, the Johnny thing, because he gets called up and he's called like Johnny Blaze. But it's like, no, that's a rapper.
And
it's like
Ghost Rider.
And Ghost Rider. And then it's Johnny Spade. And like, no, that's already used. And then it was like, because he comes in and he's like Bischoff's like
Wacky.
And he's like Johnny Nitro.
And he comes out to the Nitro music. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then he's John Morrison, and then Johnny fill in the blank for wherever he goes.
Also some here, Eric from the show. It says now, well, I don't know how old this is, but Eric is now a head strength and conditioning coach at at Lehigh University in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
wow.
That's where up until very recently the Eagles did their training camp.
Yeah. So
for about
another
20 years.
guy who possibly lives in Pennsylvania now from Tough Enough. But go ahead.
And so the tragedy comes in with the other winner, which was Matt Capitelli. And he was the guy in this show. One of the most famous parts of this season was they do a practice match, and Hardcore Holly is in there with Matt Capitelli, and he beats the shit out of him.
I don't know how I would handle that.
Well, that's what they do, because if you don't have the mentality where you can handle that, you're not cut out for wrestling. You'll be blackballed.
Which is terrible.
Well, this is here's what pisses me off. They and this is where they had I thought they did a good job explaining it on the show, where they teach these kids respect of the business and respect your person and always make sure your person's safe, and they drill it into their head. And then a guy who they respect comes in and they give them that respect, and the guy just shoots and kicks the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't learn nothing like that.
And then you're like, well, wait a second. Why are we being trained to be good people, but some veteran can come in and just take advantage of that situation.
Agreed.
And how is that not a problem?
Well, nowadays it largely is a problem. That has been largely weeded out.
And this is not me trying to say I'm a tough guy and that I would beat anyone up. Because listen, any dog has his day and anyone can get their ass whooped. And I'm not saying that I'm that, but I know me as a person where I just can't take things. Like I would have to defend myself. If I was in that situation where I gave up my body to you in a ring and you stomp me in the face 4 times and then we stand up and you're not doing your job at that point, I don't know. I might keep my cool until we get to the back, but we're having a conversation.
And that's sometimes the reaction the guy's looking for.
Yeah.
That's sometimes they're trying to see how much you'll take, and it's testing your mettle basically, and then that's maybe a reaction they're looking for. Like, okay, good, you'll stand up for yourself.
Yeah. Because I mean, like, cool, you threw a couple shots in, but you like dislocate that kid's jaw or break his orbital, you just ruin his chances at a contract.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
And you don't learn nothing.
yeah. Have you ever had a situation like that where someone took advantage of a situation?
Not that I not
Like,
to that
personally?
extreme. Yeah, maybe they're shooting, but that's when you give them that shot back, and then they usually go, okay. You know, sometimes they would say sorry, then they know.
Yeah. Or like you,
Just give it right back.
or like maybe they just planted one in. and
Yeah,
they
I
didn't
mean,
mean to.
they might not mean it. You know,
Yeah.
that can happen. But I've luckily never had that.
Yeah, I don't.
And you wrestled Hardcore Holly.
Yeah, but that's when he was a different hardcore then
Yeah.
than he was here. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
I would have a hard time with that.
he's like did a total 180.
Honestly, that's a huge reason why I can't do backstage stuff. 'Cause with my body, like, I'm not risking
Yeah.
getting hurt at a wrestling show where I'm 9 times out of 10 not getting paid, and then some guy doesn't tell me during a backstage interview that he's going to grip me up and throw me around. Like, no, like,
Yeah.
In my experience, most people will clear things.
Yeah, usually
Yeah.
if it's
Yeah.
a non-wrestling person,
Yeah.
you would have to
Like,
say, hey, we like.
I don't want to pull the curtain back too much, but the guy we've seen that happen to a lot is Mitch from PPW,
And it's
and
ve-
Mitch is like, hey, do whatever you want.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
very clear on
Yeah.
that.
And now he is a wrestler.
Now he is
Yeah.
a wrestler. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
usually there's the hands off. Oh, they're not a worker, so you can't pull.
yeah,
them, you know?
absolutely. And that's where I always had, like, this season was, I think, that was an interesting moment of the show, because even everyone on the show was kind of like, we're not cool with it.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
and this is probably the season where everybody as a team of the show was really behind each other. Like, they all bonded very well.
Mhm.
Like, some seasons it got catty or it got like, I hate this person and this person. This season, by the end of it, everyone generally seemed like they cared about each other.
And yeah, and it was also a season where like people were like, yeah, it's gonna be John and Matt,
yeah.
and it was,
And
it
John
should
was
have
just
been.
so cool as a cucumber, man. Like, nothing can rattle that guy.
And Matt Capitelli seemed like he had a lot of potential, and he did very well in OVW. But then he got diagnosed with cancer, brain cancer,
Yeah.
and fought with it for a long time, and then unfortunately did lose his battle with brain cancer and passed away.
How
Yeah,
when
he's
did he
only
pass
38.
away?
2017.
28, June 29th,
2018, yeah.
2018.
So then this website's way outdated, because it says now he's a physical therapist director at Louisville Athletic Club in
No.
Meadowville Vale, Kentucky.
No,
But-
he retired from wrestling. He when he got sick, he was the OVW champion.
Mm.
Retired from wrestling, had the tumor removed, but then cancer can come back, and he was diagnosed with cancer again in 2017 and died in June of 2018.
It's heartbreaking.
Mhm, he was only 38.
Jesus
Mhm.
Christ. But yeah, how we're saying probably the most successful
Yeah, John Morrison, Johnny Impact, whatever you want to call
Johnny
him.
Hazelton, Johnny
Multiple-time
Podcast,
champion.
Johnny GCW.
Currently with Taya Valkyrie. It was with Melina, so he did well in that department too.
And they met on Tough Enough.
Yeah.
She almost made this cast. She was in the final 25.
Yeah.
And then she managed him along with them.
He
what's
brought a
his name?
girlfriend on the show for a couple of days, but it wasn't
Oh,
a worker.
yeah, well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Many guys coming to wrestling with a girlfriend, and then they
And
meet
it's
somebody
funny,
in wrestling. And
that-
that's the end of that.
That Canadian reality show that I was talking about with Lance Storm, and it was one of the people on that show, Taya Valkyrie.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of hers. I hope she's killing it. All right, that's season 3. Season 4
Is not really a TV show. It's a
Yes.
segment. So this is around the time that WWE is kind of looking for ideas for their programming, and they're doing the Diva Search on Raw, which is more based on TNA, and they're hiring a lot of like Hawaiian Tropic models and
Not TNA the company.
TNA the body parts.
Yeah.
And I mean, a handful of people had decent careers out of that. Michelle McCool, Maria Kanellis Bennett later, Christy Hemme.
and-
Kelly was she was just a catalog
oh.
model they signed. She was post Diva Search. Eve Torres, Maurice. Like the cream of the crop from that were probably Maria, Maurice, and Michelle McCool and Eve
Yeah.
Torres.
Now, how much of this season do you
And
think?
Layla was awesome.
How much of this season do you think is, hey, we are, because you just finished your MTV run. Here's a guy from our show who wants to be a wrestler. Let's throw him in and see how he does.
There was actually a bit of a break.
Yeah.
There was a bit of a break.
Because Miz did go to the independent scene and make a name for himself.
Did he?
That's what he's, well, at least what I cut from my research.
I thought Miz was never on the independent.
I don't think he was.
From what I was kind of looking, he did a little bit of independent work because he was getting the Miz character on the independent scene.
Tough Enough was done in this season. Of Tough Enough ended in 2004, and Miz didn't get signed by WWE until 2006.
Yeah, but even before Tough Enough, he had matches in the ring.
That I'm not sure about. He may have had a few matches, but
maybe he was like, "Oh, the real world guys here." You know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I always thought
he already had his logo and everything before he showed up.
Oh, he had his logo back when he was just on the Real World.
No, but he had gear and everything.
Yeah,
he showed up on Tough Enough.
Yeah, that doesn't mean you're a wrestler. You can buy gear and not be a wrestler.
Yeah, but from what he said he has worked the independence.
And when he started, he had remember the long shorts, and he'd wear like the fedora and stuff. When he had terrible gear.
He did wrestle for a little bit in UPW.
Okay.
Which was where John Cena got his start. It's where John Heidenreich got his start. It was Rick Bassman who discovered the Ultimate Warrior and Sting. And he had a territory in California. It was a developmental territory for a while. Victoria came from there, and I guess he did wrestle. He did train in UPW for a little bit right before Tough Enough.
Yeah. Now this is the season where the stakes get upped. It's a $1 million season.
Big asterisk next to that. Not really $1 million.
What do you mean, Brian?
So the winner of this season, and this season, like Raw had the Diva Search. This was segments on SmackDown.
Yes,
and they did things on pay-per-views too. But so the whole thing they said was the winner was going to get $1 million contract, which is technically true. It's like football. The only thing that's really real is the guaranteed money.
Mm-hmm. And
so this was a 4-year deal worth $250,000 a year, and only the first year was guaranteed. So
a total, it's $1 million.
It was
if you make it.
Yeah,
$250,000 is still a lot of money.
Yeah,
sure. I'll take it right now.
Yeah.
I'll sign for that for 1 year for that. Sure. I'll sign 4 years for that.
But yeah, it wasn't really for $1 million.
This season also very heavy on people who end up doing stuff in the business after.
Yeah. This is definitely, you could tell the last edition of Tough Enough before the wellness policy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
there's some big fellas in this.
This is the juiced out series.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this was a season where one of the guys who, he was a big part of the casting part, but didn't make it. Marty Wright is one of the guys who was there, and he lied about his age. You had to be, I think, under 35 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
There was an age cap, and he was 40 at the time, and he lied about his age. And I think they asked him to get his ID, and it was in the car. So he said it was in the car. They're can you go get it? He's like, no.
and he was doing very well in the physical challenges, everything that they were having.
Yeah.
So this season, before it was just hey, random people showed up at club WWE or whatever it was called.
They did the tryout camp here.
And then any Joe Schmo can stand up in line American Idol style and apply and do it. And then season, I think 3 and 4,
they invited people in.
It was more or less, you put your tape in, but we looked at your tape and studied you and then invited 40 and then got it down to 25.
So then Marty Wright winds up becoming more famous as the Boogeyman.
Yeah, and he was in WWE for a couple years.
Yeah.
And then they bring him back every now and then for a one-off appearance.
Yep.
Yeah, still there. And another guy who tried out but didn't really make it didn't really make it to the show was Doc Gallows, Drew Hankinson.
Yeah.
Who would get signed and have...
What did he ever do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you want to talk about... We talked about how John Morrison had the best career of winner. Who had the best career of anybody ever on Tough Enough? It's somebody on this show. Dan Rodimer, who was the Dan Rodimer who would wrestle as Dan Rodman, was a guy who was just... They said he's going to be the next big thing. I think when they kicked Randy Orton out of Evolution, they was talking about putting him in as the 4th guy in Evolution. He never really did a whole lot. One of the other people that tried out for this was John Studd's son, John Minton Jr., but I think he just missed the cut.
John Meyer.
Yeah.
He got signed. He ended up being a cheer.
No, he didn't.
He said here.
Nick Mitchell.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nick Mitchell. Yes, Nick Mitchell.
He was in the Spirit Squad.
Spirit Squad.
Mitch. I'm sorry, Nicky was Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
He was Mitch in the Spirit Squad, and then later, for a long time, dated Tori Wilson.
Oh, good
Yeah,
for him.
Which is
Also, was it this season that was it Matt's brother? Somebody from the previous season's brother tried to sign up, and he didn't.
Josh's brother tried out
Josh
in one of the
Matthews'
early
brother,
seasons
and didn't make it.
Yeah, I think it was season 2 even.
Yeah.
But Justice Smith was another one. He's a really tall guy, like 6'8". He was like the third or fourth out.
Already has a name.
Yeah.
Wrestling.
And then he wound up not really making it, and he was on the American Gladiators reboot, as was Matt Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Reeves, who would go on to be Skip Sheffield and later Ryback, was part of the season. And then your final two, your winner, we're going to actually talk about the winner here first, was Daniel Puder, who was responsible probably for the most famous moment in Tough Enough history. Not Tough Enough winner here, like not just the season, the history of Tough Enough.
Almost exposed a talent.
Yeah. So they do a thing where Kurt Angle comes out and runs around, and he takes down Chris Naraki, who was another guy who won a squat thrust competition. So the whole idea is we're going to have all these people get gassed doing squat thrust, and then they're going to have to fight Kurt Angle. And they're already tired, and then Kurt Angle's just going to throw them around. That's what he did to Chris Naraki. And he's like, I'll go after anybody. And
well, Chris Naraki kind of he sold it too. Like he was like, yeah,
because he's smart and he knew what they were looking for, and he gave it to them.
Yeah.
He wasn't trying to go into business for himself on a wrestling show.
Ain't
Like
UFC.
somebody. And this is the moment that WWE said, if he wins, we're not picking up those last 3 years of that contract. So Dan Puder gets singled out, and Dan Puder was an MMA fighter, had a few fights under his belt here, and so Angle challenges Dan Puder to come in and wrestle and fight, and they're fighting around, and Angle takes Puder down, but Puder catches him in a Kimura, or as they say in catch wrestling, the old double wrist lock.
Double wrist
Oh,
lock.
he has it real good too.
And Kurt Angle is trapped. So Kurt Angle tries to get Puder in some kind of pinning position, and he doesn't really get his shoulders down, but they count the pin anyway to have Kurt Angle save
That
face.
referee
Jimmy Cordero
killed it, because if he doesn't make that quick call, or Kurt doesn't make a call to him, this could have he would have snapped Kurt Angle's arm on live TV.
Yeah, so he had Kurt Angle dead to rights, and then they kind of saved it.
And here's the thing: a lot of people are like, "Oh, see, MMA, Kurt Angle would have gotten smoked." Kurt Angle wasn't expecting a dude to lock in a Kimura on him. If this is a legit fight, Angle doesn't give up his arm that easy.
Well, I mean, Puder had training.
Sure.
And Angle is an incredible wrestler.
But he wasn't expecting a guy to lock in a legit submission on him.
And Kurt Angle in 2004 is not Kurt Angle in 1996 who won the gold medal.
Yeah.
His body's breaking down. As a matter of fact, not long after this, Puder's your winner, and he gets 1 year, and it's mainly in developmental. He was in the Royal Rumble, where the big thing was, I believe was it Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero just took turns chopping the ever-loving shit out of him. It was your welcome to the league kid moment. And you know, like they're thinking this one's for Kurt, and they're going to just chop the shit out of you.
Yeah.
And then Dan Puder was cut. He flirted with joining Ring of Honor and then wound up going back to MMA. In 2006, Kurt Angle gets cut by WWE when he's at the height of his, at the time, the height of his issues with substance abuse. And Dana White tried his ass off to sign a Kurt Angle Dan Puder fight for UFC, but Kurt Angle's like, nah, my time to have been in UFC has long come and gone.
Yeah. Well, that's season 4.
Well, you do have your winner.
Who won this?
Well, Dan
has to be the
Puder-
best guy in their league, right?
Dan Puder wins it, but Mike Mizanin is your second place guy.
What did he ever do?
Yeah.
He's only won a couple of world titles.
He's only a 2-time Grand Slam champion.
Had a job for 20 years almost.
And still in the company.
Yeah, has his own spin-off reality show.
Yeah.
Married Maurice.
Yeah, that's enough
I
alone.
think he's like, what, 8 or 9-time Intercontinental Champion? Maybe
Yeah.
10?
Yeah. What a career.
Surefire WWE.
Yeah,
Hall of
I mean,
Famer.
maybe you don't get 5-star matches out of Miz, but he's solid in the ring, and he's been
Yeah.
there for 20 years
Has
almost.
one major injury his entire career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll give it to him for that. I mean,
has had a better career than 95% of people
Yeah.
who've ever come through
Well,
WWE.
Yeah, when it comes to this show, as of right now, your top 2 people who've come out of this
Miz and John Morrison.
is Miz and
Yeah,
John
Which
Morrison.
were, then they were a tag team.
Yeah.
They were tag champs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny, but then when they first had the Miz, they had him do stupid interview segments. He was the Diva Search.
He was the host.
Yeah.
Then
And he really screwed up giving the phone number out.
yeah,
And there was And there was one point when he was on SmackDown where like Chris Benoit kicked him out of the locker room. Everyone was like, "Yeah, Chris Benoit, you show him here." And you look back at like, man, Miz is a good guy. And Benoit was kind of a dick, wasn't
Yeah.
Remember his duck shirt? It had,
Yeah.
like, the Miz with the duck
Like,
and
he? The one thing I never got about the hatred for the Miz from like hardcore wrestling fans. So I get he was never on the Indies and he's not Bryan Danielson in the ring, and I get all that. But this is one of your people that made it.
Mhm.
The Miz was a wrestling fanatic to the point where he's on the Real World talking about how much he in 2001
He shot his shot.
yeah.
talking about how much he loves wrestling and he wants to be a wrestler called the Miz. He's a wrestling geek on MTV.
Yeah, I didn't know anybody, wasn't related
Yeah.
to anybody.
He's my inspiration. Dude, we talked wrestling in our kitchen, and we're not even on a tenth of the level of what he's got accomplished, but we're part of it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we're fans who are getting a small taste of what's doing this. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
I'm a fan, man. I love the Miz.
So I always kind of rooted for the Miz more than somebody like who was like, I was a bodybuilder, I just got in this because I thought it'd be good.
Good on the
Yeah.
mic.
Yeah, well, not first, but eventually he
Yeah,
would.
it took him a little bit. That team with John Morrison is where he really when they had that dirt sheet show.
Yeah.
That's when he really started to put together a little bit, and then around 2016,
Him and his wife pretending to be Nikki Bella and fucking
Yeah.
I
John
think that's
Cena.
the best stuff they've ever done.
Oh,
That feud.
And-
amazing.
and-
I would have put the world title on him there. I know
Yeah.
he would eventually win again for what, 2 weeks or
And
something.
if they would have put the world title on him, and then when Bryant came back,
And
then
Bryan
had Bryant
beat him,
beat him, that was your golden storyline. You're like, why isn't that what's happening right now?
before the whole Kofi Mania thing, and they already had him plugged in with Shane McMahon at that point, so it wouldn't have happened.
Shane probably stunted his thing.
Before the whole Kofi Mania thing, when the Miz was like super over as a babyface and his
Yeah.
dad was over, I was like, they're gonna have babyface Miz and heel Daniel Bryan for the title.
Yeah.
There's 3 times where 3 superstars were probably the top of their game that could have been world champions, and all 3 of them got held back because Shane McMahon wanted to do a bit with them.
Yeah, or hey, you got over when we didn't want you to get over, which
Yeah.
hopefully that's done now.
So Shane essentially stunted the Miz at probably one of his most popular times in his career.
Mhm.
Kevin Owens,
Yeah.
babyface Kevin Owens, and AJ Styles.
AJ had a good run. AJ's title run was
But I'm saying
Yeah,
he
he-
could have had another one, but
Eh,
he was like, oh, now I have to fight Shane McMahon every
maybe I don't
week.
know if he was on the path to the world title there.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think so.
yeah, probably not.
He had
I
a
mean-
title before and after that.
Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was when Jinder was champion. Then
Oh, yeah, that was the
That-
greatest
that-
title run.
that came out. That came out why they put it on AJ. Did you see this?
No.
They said that because it was right before Survivor Series, it was going to do champion versus champion, and Brock it was going to be Brock and Jinder, and Brock's like, I'm not fucking wrestling Jinder Mahal, someone else. And so like, okay, quick, put it on AJ.
Disrespect. Brock was afraid of Jinder. That's what it came down to.
yeah.
He hindered Jinder
Yeah.
and lived to tell the tale.
He did not want no smoke from the modern day
Maharaja.
Has he been on TV in a while? I haven't.
A little bit here and there. Yeah,
was
he was
on
doing the
SmackDown for a
Shanky
little bit.
thing. Him and Shanky.
Oh,
Which-
you know, the
which-
dancing thing, which
yeah.
I would assume that's done.
Yeah, you can kiss that goodbye.
Yeah.
That shit's done.
Yeah.
Oh, that feels good to say.
I know. I'm so happy.
I will still
No
die
more
in the hill
dancing
that
Shanky.
that I am a Jinder fan. I'm a Jinder fan. Don't care.
I think
Unapologetically.
You could be head of the fan club.
I think
But-
Jinder's window was closed when a certain guy paid people $19.6 million.
Yeah.
I think that's over now.
Good. Let's have Jinder on the independent scene. Please book him at PPW and Outbreak and everywhere else. I love him.
Oh, no, I don't know if that's his real name or not.
I love him.
I
I think
don't believe it.
I think he's dope. Anyway, let's get to season 5.
So season 5, we're back. Big gap here because that ends in 2004,
This is where they put production value into it.
and season 5 happens in 2011.
2010.
Season 5 is probably the nicest of all the seasons, because they were at like a complex where the house was attached to where they trained.
Yeah. So actually, they announced it in 2010. It started
Oh, yeah,
airing April
2011,
4th, 2011. So there's a good 7-year gap or 6.5-year gap between Tough Enoughs here, and it's a show again. And Steve Austin's your host.
Which is right there. Like, sign
Yeah.
me up. I'm gonna watch Steve Austin scream at kids.
It's on the USA Network, and almost nobody from this season really amounted to anything, at least in WWE. You have a few people here who did well in Lucha Underground. You have 3 people on this season who became pretty big in Lucha Underground. There was only one winner. It was intergender, but only one person was going to win.
And even
And-
the winner didn't do anything.
And the only person who had a prolonged run in WWE, and by prolonged I mean of any kind, was the first person eliminated, Arian Andrew, who would become Cameron, one of the Funkadactyls, was the first person out.
My favorite part of any Tough Enough ever.
And because they would have like the final two or the final three, and then Steve Austin would just ream them out for 10 minutes. It was great TV every time.
He would do a promo on them for all three of them.
That
Like,
was
why
good.
do you? And then like pit them against each other. But like, well, what do you think she's better than you at? Like, that was the thing they did in the early seasons too. At the very end, like, say if you won, and like they would be like, they'd bring Taz would come up and go, "All right, you're looking at your boy up there, and he won the championship. Tell me what you feel, and don't lie about it." And then you're like, "Ooh, that Andy header, you dirtball! I should have won. I'm pissed off." And that's how
I
they
kind of like that.
Yeah, they did every season like that. Well, then they kind of put that weekly by saying Stone Cold be like, "Well, tell me why you belong to be here. Tell me why this piece of trash is here, not you." And then they just shoot on each other. And then if they both made it, they had to go back in the house and pretend they're friends.
So
Yeah, it makes for good TV.
So the first week they have Ari and Andrew on, and Austin is like, "What's your favorite match?"
The greatest moment of Tough Enough ever.
Well, she
Melina
did-
versus
she-
Alicia Fox.
She did say she didn't watch a lot of the product.
Doesn't
Ever?
matter.
Well, then why are you here? Is the next question.
Yeah. That's like me going to the NFL's version of Tough Enough.
Well, that's essentially what was like her
Did you watch football? Nope.
Yeah, that was her downfall. Is like that was the thing that pulled her against her.
She had no passion, and she got signed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, she was very good looking. So, you know.
Well, here's the thing: if you're just watching wrestling and you're joining this and you're like, "Oh, I'll turn on TV now,"
Yeah.
and I'm not,
And even if you've only ever watched one episode of Raw in your life,
You could
your
have said,
favorite match shouldn't be Melina versus Alicia Fox.
yeah, at that time, John Cena's real big. You'd probably say, hey, John Cena, Randy
So
Orton.
if you're a female and you're getting in this business,
Yes.
and I'm not trying to put race into this, but if at the time Alicia Fox is probably one of your only like most used at the time black female wrestlers, so she probably seen Alicia Fox and says, "I can relate to her. I see similarities."
I mean, maybe, but you would also be like, wow, she's being used terrible.
Yeah.
Like, even if you don't know anything about wrestling, like, well, she loses all the time.
yeah.
And,
Well,
And she doesn't get much time.
she could have been watching when she was just I don't know anything.
Well,
but
this is
I
what
think you're making
2000
excuses for her.
Yeah, this
I
is
am. I
2011.
always try to see the good in people, I guess.
I'm trying to think of women like Beth Phoenix is probably hot.
Beth
this
Phoenix
time.
is around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Natty's around.
I don't know if I don't think there's any black females because
Naomi may have been around by then.
yeah,
Who
possibly.
becomes her partner?
Yeah,
in Fucking Backwards. I think she may have been on that NXT.
Awesome Kong was
sci-fi
in and out,
show.
but they did use her terrible.
Karma, barely used her. So the second person out is Matt, who is M-Dog 20, Matt Cross.
Yeah,
He is the first of three people on this season who will
He doesn't give a
become-
shit either. He's like, all right, whatever.
He is the first of three people on the show who will become a Lucha Underground guy.
and he already did some stuff in ROH.
Yeah,
at this
he-
point.
yeah.
He
was
got
on
eliminated, and they're like, "Do you care?" And he goes, "No," and he just
Yeah.
walked.
Yeah, I got bookings this week, and I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, he was Son of Havoc in Lucha Underground.
He probably came in and seen the TV side of things and goes, I
think
hate
he knew it
this."
was raw. I don't think he knew like, oh, I'm gonna get signed off. Of
Yeah,
this.
Matt,
He
because
knew the deal.
a good, very good wrestler, not that tall.
Especially because Austin Aries apparently tried out for the season. They told him no, thank you. And he had a name. The third person out was Michelle Dayton, who at the time was married to Johnny Fairplay from Survivor, who had a
Well, she quits.
yeah, she quits.
Yeah.
So just some other people, notable people.
She quits the day after someone gets released, which is kind of a shit move to do.
Yeah,
Where if you're like,
M-Dog actually, Matt.
yeah, where if you're like, you know what, they signed for me, I quit now. Then maybe they're like, all right, well then you're this week's elimination. and
Yeah.
we'll move on, and then he gets another week to prove himself. But like, if I get dropped and I'm just like, and I get dropped to a girl who is half in, half
And they
out,
quits. Yeah.
and then she
Like,
quits the
fuck.
week after, you're like, what a fucking scumbag move. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Some other people that were kind of another thing about the season is some of these people were signed before they started filming, and then they cut them so they could be part of the show. And
Oh,
then
God.
just re-sign them afterward. Other people, Ivelisse Velez, Ivelisse still around. She left because she was injured, and winds up going to Lucha Underground.
Mhm.
Right after her, one of the people who was seen as like a favorite was Marty or
Well,
Martin.
Ivelisse is also the one who,
Had the issues with Thunder Rose and AEW.
where essentially she called out the issues that people are now being more vocal about with
Yeah.
Thunder Rosa. So Ivelisse was kind of trashed and said she's an unprofessional and she's
She
this
had
and
a reputation well before Thunder Rose.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't help Benny in the situation either.
Yeah, but I'm saying is a lot of the things that she's saying now are coming out about Thunder Rosa that is like, oh
Yeah.
boy, she kind of was on like about where she just started sandbagging Thunder because she felt Thunder Rosa was sandbagging her, or like where she put like she kicked her and she just sat there and like don't
Yeah.
care, you know what I mean? Like
like
You don't do that on TV.
yeah,
No.
two wrongs don't make a right.
You
absolutely,
can take that up backstage. You don't hurt the performance.
Yeah.
over it.
yeah,
uh,
it's interesting.
So Martin, they called him Donny Osmond on the show. He has to leave due to injury, and then he was Marty the Moth in Lucha Underground. Had a good run there. Christina Crawford is one of the last people eliminated, but she was the last one eliminated before the final three. She was Alicia Fox's sister.
Oh.
Victoria Crawford is Alicia Fox. This is Christina Crawford. She was signed to WWE before this. They cut her for this show, and then they signed her.
That makes a lot of sense because I thought the whole time watching, I'm like, she looks kind of like Alicia.
Yeah, they're sisters.
Maybe that's why she was putting Alicia over because her
Maybe.
sister was on the show.
Then your final three: Jeremiah Riggs, who was an MMA fighter. AJ Kirsch also was one of the people eliminated beforehand, who was a guy who he had some decent stuff on the indies for a little bit. And then you had Luke Robinson, who did well in the indies afterward. He was your runner-up. He was your second place. And I believe he's still one of them is still doing stuff. I don't know if it's him or no, it's not him. I believe it is somebody from the next season of Tough Enough. Or let me get this right. Ryan Howe, who was another person on the season. Ryan Howe is, I believe, if not the current OVW champion, he's
I said that Jeremiah Riggs returned to Bellator.
Yeah, he was a Bellator fighter.
He lost 3 fights.
He
and then he was on Broken
undersized.
Skull Challenge.
Yeah. And then your winner is Silent Rage, Andy Levine.
Big Andy, who did absolutely nothing.
He took a stunner and he got kicked in the balls by Vince McMahon after he won, and then that was it.
Yeah, because he said guarantee and Vince didn't like it.
He did wrestle in the independent scene in a promotion called WWC.
That's the Cologne's promotion in Puerto Rico.
And won a lot of championships there.
Oh, well, good for him.
Yeah.
I don't. So they didn't even show the match. Like,
Hey, look at his look here.
Is that Big Andy?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
That's how he got swollen.
Yeah. The whole thing was, they're gonna have a match at the end, and that's how we're gonna pick the winner. They didn't show the full match on TV.
Yeah.
They only showed highlights.
It had to be horrible.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that was it. So he's probably the most losingest winner of every Tough Enough.
Yeah.
And WWE, well, maybe not.
Let's go to the last season. Let's go to the last season, which happened in 2015.
Yeah, no break.
This season is fucking insane to me. Like the people they had on here, and they're just like, "Yep, get the fuck out." And you're
yeah.
And then who they end with, you're like, "What?"
So yeah, I think both of your winners here might be in the running for winners who did nothing. The most underwhelming winner of Tough Enough. They make Linda Miles look like Charlotte Flair.
Oh my god! The Wikipedia is not saying the winners here.
So
yeah, because they don't even want to remember.
Let's talk about some of the people who didn't win. Your fourth person eliminated is Daria Baronato, who is still in WWE as Sonya Deville. Right after her was Gabby Castrovinci, who didn't do a whole lot there, but she was in Impact Wrestling for a while. And then right after her is Patrick Clark, who was the Velveteen Dream, and he did what he did, or is alleged to have done what he was alleged to have done. But he was a big deal in NXT for a while. You
know what kind of pissed me off about his elimination though? So he got eliminated because they felt he was too cocky, and he was arrogant, and he was pompous because he was bragging to the one guy in the show about beating him in a challenge or two. But the thing is like the guy who he was bragging to, he didn't do a single thing in the ring to this point. They were just doing physical challenges. Like, when they first do the show, they're like, hey, let's make them run.
Yeah.
This guy was really good at running. So he would beat everybody and be like, I'm better than all of you. And at the time, Patrick Dream was essentially already kind of a wrestler. And he's like, you ain't shit. Just because you can run an obstacle course doesn't mean you're going to be good at this.
Oh.
And it took a while for him to finally snap. But it was like after like 2 or 3 weeks of this guy just saying like, I'm dominating all of you. And he was like trashing them in the house. And then the coaches would be like, you're the man. You're once again, this guy wins clean. Like, and he'd go back to the house and talk shit. And then Patrick's like, they did something that had to do character work and in-ring work. And then he started winning. And he's like, I'm fucking better than you. But he did it in front of the coaches, and then the coaches then made a big thing on TV that he was ignorant and an asshole.
Yeah. Remember what you said about reality TV?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a work.
But it was funny how they played it off.
Like this guy's too young. We think he might be something. Let's just send him off.
Yeah, it worked out for him.
And then somebody earlier on, right before Daria Sonya Deville was cut, somebody Diana Dahlgren quit. She just walked off the show, and they replaced her with somebody who had a brief cameo on Raw before this as. Somebody Stephanie McMahon brought in when she was feuding with Brie Bella that was supposed to be Daniel Bryan's physical therapist and said she had an affair with him. And that was Chelsea Green. That was Chelsea Green's first big TV moment. Was that therapist thing?
Yeah.
And then they brought her back for this. She has blonde hair now. She had darker hair for the original thing. So she comes in for a little bit, and then your final four, you have ZZ, the
Southern guy.
the Florida Gator guy, the Gator wrestler, Zamaria Loop. Again, if you have that name, why would you need? That's a name that doesn't require a gimmick name.
No.
And Amanda Sacamano, who we now know better as Mandy Rose, who she kind of felt the brunt of the backlash because this is when NXT's women division is so hot, and then they take 3 of the 4 horsewomen and bring them up to the main roster, and the women's revolution is starting to kick off. And Mandy is diva through and through at this point. She's a Hawaiian Tropic model. Looks like she just stepped off of a photo shoot.
They made her like the heel of the show.
Yeah.
And she wasn't winning anything. She was just kind of coasting off the accomplishments of everybody else in the house.
And the thing about this season is, like, they would pick people who were at risk, and then they would decide who got booted from a fan vote. Like,
which I don't believe at all. You think the fans vote actually
I'm
mattered?
sure
Did they
fans voted.
Did they have to?
They literally gave them like 13 seconds to do it.
The question is, did they have to pay to vote?
Yeah.
Yes, it's real, because if not, they could have gotten into a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have to pay to vote and you work it, that is like the old 21 quiz show scandal. You're playing with fire at that point. If it's free, then it's whatever. But if you have to pay to vote,
Kind of like Taboo Tuesday.
yeah, if that's free, they can work it however they want. Usually, but the trick they do is they'll edit it a certain way and make you want to do something. But I think people really like Sarah Lee because, like, she was more like a lead. Like she was portrayed as more of like a Lita type, like the cool girl next door you could hang out with.
She had a nose ring.
Yeah. And it's funny because she's the word you would throw around, and it's ridiculous because she was like a model too, is attainable. Like, oh, she's attainable.
I see where you're going with it.
Yeah. Like, that's what they always would say about the person who's really hot, but they're not like that. They don't have the stereotypical model look. Oh, they're attainable.
They're not all plastic and altered.
So it comes down to ZZ, Mandy, Sarah Lee, and Josh Breedle, who I don't remember a goddamn thing about Josh. You watch this. Tell me about Josh.
I don't either.
Josh he had a really good look. He had long hair. And
that's a hell of a name that they gave him, Bronson Matthews.
Yeah, he essentially, like I said, it came down to him and between him, this ZZ guy who the whole time I'm just like, he has a lot of friends that are voting if this is the case, or he talks like a southern version of, even more southern drawl version of Dusty, but it essentially should have been this Josh and this other guy who was winning everything.
I remember this now because they had everybody adopt a persona on the show, and his persona was the Yeti.
The Yeti.
Yeah, and he used to always go. He would do like the Chewbacca noise. Yeah, but yeah, he had a good look and everything.
According to his Wikipedia, in January 2016, he made a tweet referring to the lower card stable, the Social Outcasts, as the Social Jobbers.
I vaguely remember this.
This would cause backstage backlash from WWE wrestlers, including Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens. He was then temporarily banned from NXT locker rooms as a result. He wrestled his final match on July 7th, 2016, and was released from his contract on November 5th, 2017.
There it is.
This is how bad your winners were, Sarah Lee.
Don't piss off Cody and Kevin.
Yeah, this is how bad your winners were here, Sarah Lee and Josh. This is when NXT was a televised product, and they weren't even on that.
Yeah.
They weren't even on that.
It's like, did you really win?
I mean, you signed Sarah, right? And then you get like a Tegan Knox.
Yeah,
and you're like,
can actually wrestle.
And you're like, yeah, Sarah, you can go home.
Yeah. Well, Tegan Knox came around a lot later. Her thing was apparently, like, I think her thing was that she wasn't really applying herself in training. Neither was ZZ. They signed ZZ, and
so she's currently this is 2017 to present. So anything changed between there, but she went and left and became a trainer. She's being trained at Team Vision Dojo in Orlando, Florida.
I know for
and she married Wesley Blake.
Let me tell you something. If you're training since 2017 to 2022,
I think you're ready for your first match,
and you haven't wrestled, maybe just stop training.
Yeah.
She did have kids. She had kids with Wesley Blake. I believe they're still married. Now Weston Blake in Impact Wrestling. But yeah, wrestling just doesn't seem like it was for her.
Yeah.
But Mandy Rose was certainly successful.
Current NXT Women's Champion.
Sonya Deville certainly very successful. Again, the winners, not so much.
Yeah.
That seems to be the recurring theme.
I think
Tough Enough.
they had the least successful winners, and then I think the Steve Austin season, the 5th season, was the least successful season overall.
Do you
At
think?
least for WWE, you had some people who did well in the challenge.
Do you think with the new changes, do you think maybe Triple H looks at this and says, "Hey, do you think this is worth bringing back for TV's sake?"
If the price is right, if somebody says, "Hey, we're going to give you $50 million to do a season of Tough Enough," where do I sign?
Yeah. Maybe not this year. Maybe in 2 years.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind
Years.
watching it again.
What if AEW does a version? Elite enough. Tough. Are you elite? I don't know.
Are you elite? I like it.
Well, TNA did like the gut check.
Yeah.
It is kind of cool to see a little bit behind the scenes of wrestling, but obviously
Well,
it's
this is
WWE and
behind the scenes of gut check. Sometimes they would
gimmick it up.
come to town and then be like, "You can get a gut check. It's just going to cost you $500
Yeah.
to get in it." So all these indie guys are paying $500.
You gotta love it.
And guess what happens? They don't pick anybody.
Yeah.
They kind of had Robbie E scheduled to win it, and he won it. And it's like, all these indie guys just offered up money to TNA.
Yeah, they paid for his contract.
You got on TV, maybe
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Got a booking out.
Maybe you learned something for $500.
Joey Ryan might have gotten signed out of it.
Yeah. So
A lot
there you
of
go.
good that did.
But anyway,
All right, well that'll do it for our topic. Tough enough. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I
it
thought
might
was
come
fun.
back one day. I wouldn't rule it
Yeah,
out.
never say never. Reality shows get rebooted all the time.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get into our current events. Before we get into that, real quick, we'll just do another commercial. If you would like to support us, we do have the Patreon. We do have all of our social medias. You can follow us, or you can grab some merchandise. Like I said, if you like the logos of other talent being utilized on the logos, the best way to help us with that is buying merchandise, because those logos aren't cheap to get done and to sell. We haven't sold a T-shirt, to be honest, in a long time. I think the last, as a network, I think we just sold a Banging Beer shirt for the first time in like 5 months. We were like a 5-month drought when no one bought a T-shirt. So if you guys want those logos and you enjoy them, it helps to support by buying a T-shirt here and there. And until we really start picking that up, I don't see a future in the logos when it comes to doing the special
That's
talent
fine.
ones.
Once we get our own default
Yeah,
one, we don't-
because
we don't
I
need it.
want to get equipment, and I'm looking at the finish line for when it comes to equipment and not have to buying anything for a very, very long time, because these cameras I'm getting are 4K, 5K, and the audio we have is, once you get good audio, you're good for like 10, 15 years. So would be goal, and it's like super travelable. What my joint disorder, it's not hard to carry around what we have. But so yeah, support really helps out. If you guys can do it, awesome. If you can't, share button, let people know we're here. Give us a review on Facebook. You can review on Facebook, you can review on Apple Podcasts, or you can leave a review on in the comments section. It all helps us out. Tell us what you thought of the show. That's pretty much it for our episode, but we're going to give you some bonus time now. So we still got maybe about 20-30 minutes here that we can give you some bonus content. We're going to talk about what's going on right now in the world of professional wrestling. Let's go last week in wrestling.
How about yesterday? in
Yeah.
wrestling? CM Punk is back. Big surprise, because all the talk was, we don't know when he's going to be ready. We don't know. He was limping around, obviously kayfabing a little
Yeah,
bit.
and then it might
at
take longer.
SBCC, yeah. And then apparently last night at Dynamite, there was a restricted area that not even the talent was allowed in the restricted area. And then lo and behold, at the very end, there's this big pull apart brawl, Jericho Appreciation Society, Blackpool Combat Club, and
Everyone was saying
personality
Kenny,
is-
and I was like, it's not Kenny.
No, Kenny's going to be the Bucks player.
Yeah, Kenny would make no sense to come out right there.
Yeah. Well, they want Kenny to be the champion again. I'm like,
I mean, yeah, be the champion.
that's not going to be in the cards for a while.
But he's not your interim champion,
Yeah.
and he's not your regular champion. So why would he come out there?
Exactly.
So I mean, and it is good, like the main event of All Out now. Is obviously going to be Punk and Moxley.
So it should be pretty good. It was a good return.
How do you book it?
Punk wins.
Punk wins, and then you go to Punk MJF.
Yep. Punk
But
wins. MJF beats him up.
What if your whole crowd is pro Moxley?
It's
That's all right.
What percentage chance do you think is good that the crowd's going to be pro Moxley at All Out
In Chicago.
in Chicago?
In Chicago.
0% is the correct answer.
Yeah.
0%.
I don't know. I think Moxley's pretty over.
He is. I wouldn't argue that.
I think it's going to be interesting.
0%.
You think everyone is a pro?
Not everyone, but if you're listening to that crowd, you're not going to say, this is a 50-50 crowd. They like them.
What if they turn around and they all cheer Mox?
They're not going to.
It'd be fun.
When they go to Pittsburgh, Brick gets cheered no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
What
gonna
if I could grow gills and live in the ocean?
Do you think Mox after the stare down, he maybe goes a little bit of like almost a heelish look because he flipped him off and trying to play at least a little bit of it?
No, he stays
Not
how
so
he
much
is now.
heel, but like disrespectful. Like he doesn't like.
I don't really see any change in his current
No?
character. How he is. Probably how
Yeah.
we lead into it.
I am
Yeah.
who I am. If you like it, great. If not,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's gonna lean subtle heel for this because
Kind of has
again,
to.
he's wrestling CM Punk in Chicago. You're
Chicago.
going to be the heel.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are.
Oh, so he's coming. He's
First Lady,
coming back?
Lady Christie. Hey guys, just stopping by. Continue to rebel and give him hell. Thank you so much. And then CR Media says, "Hello, Jans. What's going on, man? He has a show later on tonight. You can go check out the. I forget the name of it.
Help us out here. CR.
Yeah,
Post
but
it in the
he
chat.
will. CR Media will be live, I believe, on YouTube as well as Twitch TV at CR
Ooh,
Media. So go
nice.
check them out later on tonight.
So,
Next piece of news.
So we did have some returns in WWE as well. The day after our last show, Karrion and Cross and Scarlett return on SmackDown. The rumors came out that day.
Yeah,
Like, hey, Killer Cross might be headed back to WWE,
Yeah.
and lo and behold, that night there he is.
Seems to be in the main event. Rumors say that a USA wants a world champion, so they want to take one title off, put on him. I don't know how true that is, but all right, you know.
They
who
kinda-
reported ringside?
No, that was
I forget.
Fightful.
Yeah.
Like, it was reputable people.
Yeah, well, it wasn't
Do you
like
think leading up to
Joe
Clash-
Bob's wrestling news.
Yeah, do you think leading up to Clash of Castle, they turn around and do something like Roman at Clash of Castle, pick one of your titles you have to defend? Like,
I mean, that's my thing. If you're gonna have that big thing in Wales, and you're gonna have Roman lose a title, it's a big mistake if it's not the Drew.
Yeah,
You can really make Drew like Brett was in Canada. Drew can be in the UK if you haven't beat Roman in the UK.
That's what I'm saying. I think I can see Drew beating Roman in the UK,
And you
But-
move Drew to Raw. And
but
then-
I think maybe Roman says, "I'm not putting both titles on. You're only going for the Raw championship." And then if
might do
Drew,
something like that.
if he loses, he still has one title, and now they have separated the titles.
it's always hard to separate titles.
That's what I'm saying. They have to figure
You
something out.
know,
well, the way they did it with Becky Lynch was it's like, okay, you're wrestling this person for the Raw title and this person for the SmackDown title, and the person who she wrestled Lacey Evans and beat her, but Lacey injured her so much that Charlotte beat her.
Yeah,
And you could have a thing where Killer Cross injures Roman so much that Drew beats him. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a babyface thing, so
or are they making a three-way?
I hope not. That seems like
which-
it's where it's going. But I
Yeah.
would rather have Roman. You're such a big shot. You get to wrestle twice tonight.
Yeah,
And maybe, obviously, really honestly, if you're not going to have Drew win a title and you're going to have Cross win a title, maybe the story is if you're not going to have Drew win, which I think you can make a star by doing that, especially if Roman's going to keep a title, and especially now, one of the things that Meltzer said is even with Vince gone, the plan for 39 right now, the main event of WrestleMania still is Roman and The Rock.
Yeah.
And
the Rock's very open. They're saying like a schedule.
and so maybe the idea would be
You don't need a title for that.
no,
maybe the idea would be Drew takes Roman to the limit, but Roman ekes it out. But then Roman is so beat up the Cross. If you have to get the title on Cross, maybe that's how you do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's weird because Cross it seems like it's gonna be heel.
Yeah,
And he's
So-
staying on Raw.
I think he
Yeah.
stayed on SmackDown. They said
SmackDown,
or at least
SmackDown.
internally, he's penciled in as the number 2 heel on SmackDown.
But he does have
behind Roman.
Scarlett with him, and he did have his almost his entrance. It was a surprise thing.
Yeah.
So I mean,
As soon as the crow hit the screen, I was like,
Yeah.
"That's Cross."
I
And then
didn't know,
I
I
seen
was
a
like-
girl. I
was
seen I seen a figure of a girl and the crow, and I'm like, "Cross is back."
and he has his hair. I like his
Yeah.
hair.
I love keep the hair.
It's somebody different in the world title picture. Why not?
I-70 Hot Tag. That's the name of the show.
Okay, that's a cool name.
And-
Do you think Sting continues to take risky bumps
think it's
considering his
wise.
age?
As long as he takes them every now and then.
Yeah.
He's not doing it every week.
He's kind of doing safe-ish.
Yeah.
He's there with really safe people
He's
doing
jumping
it.
off of high stuff, but he's being caught.
Yeah.
He's not doing anything crazy.
And everyone knows that that's catching him is like, you have to fucking catch Sting.
Yeah.
And then on another return, which here's the thing, man, and we're kind of looking at, we were talking before the mics went hot, is how smoothly Triple H did the Cross return when he was the Cross debut in NXT, where if you weren't paying attention, you missed it, but he rewarded you by looking in the background.
Johnny Gargano's walking out. He had a match, empty arena match. Well, it was COVID, so everything was an empty arena match. But he's walking out after this big battle with Ciampa, and then you just see in the car, there's like somebody staring. Or not even staring, there's just 2 people in a car, and if you look close, that's Killer Cross and Scarlett.
Yeah.
And then the next week, they jump Ciampa.
Yeah.
Like, this is what happened after.
So there's a call, and the whole time we're like in our group chat, and I was like, are we just gonna pretend like there wasn't a car accident? Like that has to be something going on because they're very careful about where a camera is and what's being caught. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of those a lot of those are pre-tapes.
And they showed it twice: a car accident, then another car accident, and then the cops running by. Which one of the cops was
Mad Dog,
yeah.
was on this podcast.
Who is also a cop when he's not wrestling? Let's
Yeah,
be
he's a
honest.
cop when he's not wrestling. He failed to mention that
Yeah.
in his
Yeah.
interview
Yeah,
with us.
He forgot.
Yeah. But
He didn't want to give up his heel persona.
Yeah.
So cops come and they grab this guy who's about to jump in the crowd. But once again,
They don't really show it.
cameras don't cut to it. AJ, like you
AJ
see,
was kind of
you see the scuffle.
really
and then
milking
AJ
it
looks,
for a while.
Yeah,
'cause
he
he's
looks over and they rip his hood off. But once again, don't zoom in. You just see it through this camera. And it was Dexter Loomis, which I think is a cool way to bring a guy in who maybe your mainstream audience doesn't know who Dexter Loomis is, because he wasn't a main guy in NXT, and now a lot of people know NXT people. So it was a fun way, subtle way to.
It was different.
I like it.
I mean, I'm not a fan of him, but I liked how they did it.
You know what though? I will say this: if WWE is just banking on rating pushes by bringing in guys every week,
Eventually that
oh
dies.
boy, that's gonna.
No, I don't think they're like, hey, if we just do little teases of Dexter Loomis, we're gonna pop a rating.
No, I'm making a joke that's what all the WWE fans were saying about AEW for a
yeah,
while. Where every week, they just have this new ex WWE guy. Now it's like the opposite. Where it's like, who's Triple H bringing back?
Yeah,
oh, next week
if
maybe
Triple H
he
is
comes
like,
back.
If Vince get rid of all my people, I'm gonna get the ones I can back.
It's so funny how your fucking shit gets thrown in your face when you're a toxic wrestling fan.
Yeah, some people are terrible.
Triple H is going like, you could spend $20 million on what you wanted to spend it on. I'm gonna bring some of these people.
Like that one. It's that picture of the guy has two tweets, and the first one says, "Who's Keith Lee? What's he ever done? Why is he a big deal in AEW?" And it's a tweet from like 1 year later. Oh my God, it's Keith Lee on Raw.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest with you, that's 90% of the wrestling community on all floors of platform.
It's that they just
And it's always been like this because
fucking.
Don't
be dumb.
I remember the ECW crowd.
A lot of people eating shoes.
The ECW crowd would always hate the big muscle guys who couldn't work and didn't put the effort in. And then they had a mystery match one night, and here comes Sid.
Yeah.
And they acted like Hulk Hogan came in that building.
Now let's kind of fan guess here. With these two returns, who else is on the docket?
Probably Johnny Gargano.
100%
Johnny and Candice.
Yeah,
right.
Candice.
Yep.
The rumors now, Bray Wyatt has been talked about because apparently there's a personal thing with Vince and Bray Wyatt. And
Listen,
Triple H is going to be more open to it.
Maybe if you're more open and let him have a little more freedom when it comes to his character and what he does, cool, have fun with it.
They said that he was supposed to originally win at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And Vince just soured on him and said he was fat. And,
Yeah.
I just didn't like the thing. And they had a bad attitude and people were spreading them, which he didn't have a bad attitude. So I could see him coming back.
He would also openly criticize the creative.
Yeah.
Like, yo, this creative doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But a lot of his stuff didn't.
It did suck. Yeah. And he's saying, this sucks.
Yeah.
God damn it, do it. So, I mean, you can't blame the guy. I think Tegan Knox will probably come back. Anyone who was in NXT.
Do you think Tegan Knox, though, even with her risk of injury?
I mean, Triple H likes her.
Yeah. There's also the rumor that tomorrow on SmackDown that you might see Hit Row, or what's left of it, because obviously not going to get Swerve.
Yeah.
But you could see Top Dollar and Ashante.
Timothy Thatcher on the list of rumored returns.
I don't know if it's going to be as mainly a trainer, mainly a wrestler, a little bit of both, player coach. You never know.
Yeah.
One of Biff Busick, what was his name? Oni Lorcan.
Oni Lorcan. He would be a great signing.
Yeah. All right. So we knocked
those are two guys I would allocate to NXT, though, because they can teach so many people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
Oni Lorcan could be a main event guy there.
I
think, that Braun Breaker could learn a lot by working with Oni
and
Lorcan.
then learn have a few with both of them, then come up to the main roster, and there you go. Triple H also says he wants to get rid of they say he wants to get rid of the 24/7 title, which you would think so.
That'd be nice.
He also said on an interview that he can see in the near future Raw not being 3 hours.
Oh, that's not his decision.
I think that's that. Yeah,
He said he doesn't like the 3 hours.
I'm
That's
sure he
not
doesn't.
his decision.
Yeah.
That is a money decision. That is Nick Khan and Stephanie McMahon.
yeah, and they're already if they're contracted with the USA for 4 years of 3 hours, they have to do it. They can't just say we're going to stop.
Their TV rights deal is up next year, or sometime, or it's either 2023 or 2024. Is it worth losing $60 million a year to give up that third hour?
Here's what you do. I figured it out. 2 hours of Raw.
Uh-huh.
You got an extra hour left, right? Tough Enough season 7.
God.
Yeah, and they'll say, okay, we'll give you $20 million for that, so now you're losing $40 million.
That's all right.
Eh.
Book it.
We'll make it back in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. Go to do a Saudi show
Oh,
and you're
yeah.
covered for the next 3 years. All right. Speaking of money and Saudi money.
$5 million.
I wish Vince probably wish he had some of that Saturday morning back in the day.
Yeah. So what I feel like we should do, like, you know how telethons would always have that tote board behind you?
Or
We
the,
should have- we
the
should have a-
thermometer that you fill up.
We should have a big thing behind us to just show how much hush money Vince McMahon has paid We're now up. We've added $5 million to the total.
Do you think we're done?
No.
No, of course not. We've added $5 million.
Don't tell me I
to the
will order
total.
one of those boards tonight. We can color it in.
You need a drum roll.
Yeah.
Could I have a drum roll, please? I think of the old Jerry Lewis telethon. I need a timpani bell. $19.6 million in hush money paid.
19.6 can buy you any porn star you want.
It is hard keeping these gators down.
Yeah. Like, can any of these women be as hot as what you could get for $19.6 million?
Listen,
I gotta say no.
listen. As someone who has sampled the goods on many women, it's not that different amongst them all. It's at the end of the day, once the poison's out, you go back to the same feeling.
What
you know?
is it when Jerky Boys say a hole's a hole as long as they're little heat in their eye, you don't give a fuck?
Essentially, and that's not. I'm not trying to say that to be disrespectful to women. I'm just saying you don't need to spend that much money on call girls. That's
Yeah.
a lot of money.
I mean, but it's like,
And here's the thing: if you want to spend your money because you're a billionaire on it, spend your own.
yeah,
Don't use company money.
that's the whole thing here.
And
Don't
I think
pull
there
their
may have been a mixture of both, but it's that it was. If they're reporting it in their financials, it's telling you something.
Yeah. Vince, if
It's
you want to
telling
buy
you
it,
something.
Go to the Bunny Ranch and say, hey, what
Yeah.
can I get for 19 million? Oh, come on in.
You wanna
Shit.
own the
Bunny
building?
Ranch.
How many you want at once?
let's
Yeah.
make some phone calls. We'll have to jet people in.
So yeah, 19.6 million is probably not done. Johnny Laurinaitis, Johnny Ace is gone
Yeah.
because he plays some hush money, but he's expendable and no one liked him anyway. He
And
was
appar-
a Vince yes man.
And I guess the whole thing with Kevin Dunn is like they don't feel like there's anybody in house that could replace him just yet. And the one person they thought could have done it got cut, and now they're like he's probably not coming back even without Vince there.
I would say Kim.
But in
Not wrong
the
for the
words
world.
of Mr. Cross, TikTok.
Yep.
TikTok, Kevin Dunn.
Mm-hmm.
See you later, man.
Yeah, Bucky Beavers. Cornette would say, I like Bruce, but I don't know if Bruce is too long for this new reign.
Yeah, Stephanie was the one that got rid of Bruce the first time. So
Yeah.
But Bruce don't have to worry. He will have the #1 podcast the next week.
Yeah. All right. We lost somebody in the wrestling world.
Judo Gene LaBelle, not just wrestling business, the fight industry. If MMA existed in the 1950s, Judo Gene LaBelle would have been a huge star.
Mhm.
He trained with Ed Strangler Lewis, who's one of the great catch wrestlers when he was 7 years old. Catch wrestling is like the legit form of what became pro wrestling. He also trained in judo, hence the name. A lot of other grappling arts. He was called I believe the king of grappling. He was a master of all of it. Wrestling itself, catch wrestling, judo, jiu-jitsu even, I believe, eventually. Very, very famous in wrestling, too. He wrestled a bit. He was a promoter. Him and his brother ran NWA Hollywood, which is one of the big NWA territories around LA from 1968 to 1982, I believe.
Oh.
So a big, big figure in
And he
pro
was
wrestling.
the referee for Muhammad Ali and Antonio
Inoki,
Inoki's Snooze Fest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then known for finding one of the gems in the women's MMA world.
Yeah, Ronda Rousey. He was Ronda Rousey's mentor in her early fights, where she would win every fight in a minute or less. He would be in her corner with a stopwatch, timing the fight. So he was her hype man, kind of. He did a lot of stunt work in Hollywood. Even later, like even in the 90s, when he's probably he was 89 now, so he was in the 60s and the 90s. He was like Rodney Dangerfield stuntman and Meet Molly Sparks. And who knows how true this is? Who knows how false this is? But there's a great story of Gene LaBelle being on stunts for a Steven Seagal movie. I forget which one, but it was in the 90s. So Gene's probably in his 50s, well into his 50s, if not his 60s.
Maybe
at
under
this point.
siege. Who knows?
So Steven Seagal was bragging about how I can escape any hold. I can escape any kind of grappling hold. And Gene's like, oh, really? All right. Because he was known for having great grip strength. But if you're a good catch wrestler, it starts with having great grip strength. Like literally, Dan Gable is one of the great catch wrestlers of all time. There is a grip in wrestling called the Gable grip.
Yeah.
But Gene LaBelle goes, okay, I don't think you can get out of my hold, Steven. And so Steven's like, let's try it. And it's a rear naked choke. It's not like it's some elaborate hold.
You're done.
So he lets Gene LaBelle take his back and lock on a rear naked choke. And I guess Steven was too proud to tap out. According to the story, nobody knows if this is true or not. Gene LaBelle said it was, and I think people have corroborated that we're there. They said that Steven Seagal passed out and evacuated his bowels.
Love that. Love to hear that. Didn't Chuck Vito say he beat Steven Seagal up in a bathroom? In
Van
New York?
Damme.
Was it Van
It
Damme?
was at a strip club.
Yeah.
It was he beat he knocked out Van Damme at a strip club.
Yeah, I knew it was somebody like a martial arts guy.
If you want a good shit your pants story,
Oh, there's a lot of ways. This
on
goes.
Bischoff's podcast, was it last week or this
Stone
week?
Cold said he on Tough Enough. He said he shit his pants in the ring.
Yeah, Bischoff tells a story of when Deborah shit in the pool.
Oh, all right.
It's very good.
I was thinking of the Andre Bad News story.
Oh yeah.
You ever shit your pants?
No, I never did. Thankfully.
Not even close?
No, yeah, not in wrestling. No.
You ever almost throw up?
Yeah, I probably like through the heat or just
Yeah.
exhaustion, I guess you could say, or just running really fast.
Yeah.
You know?
So we probably told this the Bad News Andre story on the show before, but Andre, if he wasn't a particular fan of the guy he was working with, used to because he would do this butt drop in the corner, like the guy would be sitting in the corner, like kind of head resting on the middle rope, and Andre would just kind of throw his ass on him and do he wouldn't hurt them usually, but if he didn't like the guy, instead of hurting him, he would fart on them. And one time,
And they said they were awful.
I
Yeah.
can imagine.
well,
And they last like 30
That's right in your
minutes.
face. and
Jake
it's
said
huge ass.
Jake said Andre farted on him one time when he was sitting on his chest, and he said I felt it for like 2 minutes.
so
Imagine Jake. Yeah, this
Yeah.
motherfucker, he jumped right on my chest and he started farting on me. This son of a
Yeah.
bitch farted on me, and I hear him up there.
Ain't that in one of WWE's like the cartoon show?
yeah,
Yeah.
time, yeah. So Bad News wish that would have happened.
Jake telling a fart story in that
Because
voice.
Andre, when he did this to Bad News Brown, lost control and he
Shit on him.
he had diarrhea all over Bad News Brown,
I quit the business.
and
Yeah.
Bad News ran out of the ring.
Shoot yourself.
If you shit on me, yeah, that's a problem.
So yeah, Judo Gene LaBelle, a hell of a character, a hell of a just everything. He understood wrestling, he understood fighting, he understood it all. Speaking of those old days, like the NWA Hollywood territory, Vice, home of Dark Side of the Ring, is teaming up with $7 Productions, the Rock and his ex-wife Danny Garcia's production company, and they are going to do a new show, Tales of the Territory, which is going to go through old territorial wrestling stuff.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
from the guys that did Dark Side of the Ring. So it's like there's like Dark Side of the Ring season 4 is like, are they making it or are they not? Well, they're making this show. And it's basically the same thing.
And it might be good for things like that might not be certainly dark. Like we did a whole show on Sputnik Monroe. This would be perfect for him.
Yeah, and they could do like shorter things.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're going to talk
Hopefully, do
Seattle.
Sputnik and Raw, and then people start searching it. We get some hits.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
We got some hits on when Bearcat, when Keith Lee
Oh,
was
okay,
called Bearcat.
Bearcat, yeah.
People,
Yeah.
we got a few hits on that podcast. Well, speaking of not shitting your pants, but having moments in the ring, Ric Flair said passed out twice during his
Yeah,
match.
he said he wanted to weigh in at 220, so he didn't drink anything that day. And I would say, what weight does it matter for
Yeah.
your last match?
Not shoot weights, Rick.
Yeah,
They're not
that
shoot
doesn't
weights.
matter. Yeah, he passed out. It was not a good match for Ric Flair. Then he
Passed
also
out.
said he wished he didn't say it was his last match.
Yeah.
And now you got a bunch of old guys going, well, I want to have my last match. And we shared in the chat. Honky Tonk Man said that, and that'll be
Yeah.
the new thing now. Old guys saying, oh, my last
Well, I love
match.
Gerald Briscoe's like, this is my last match.
Yeah.
It's him holding a match.
Yeah, I love Briscoe.
Oh, Briscoe's great. I fell in love with Jerry Briscoe's Twitter when after the election in 2020, he said, at least I'm not the only WWE Hall of Famer who lost my job this year.
All right. Well, we have two last bits of news that won't take very long. One is a marriage. We have a marriage in the wrestling world.
Mhm.
We have the Mr. and Mrs. Sammy and Taya Guevara.
That Ty Mello, because she changed her name, and apparently Conti was her ex-husband's name.
Oh.
It's like, why would you use that for wrestling? I don't know, but like, if I was the booker and she's like, I'm gonna change my name, I'm like, okay, take Taste Guevara, right? No, why? Just keep your name then.
Yeah.
Like, okay, even if you use his shoot name, I don't know if it's Guevara or not. No, because his wrestling name is Sammy
I
Guevara.
would be willing to bet his last name isn't really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that makes no sense. It blows my mind.
Yeah. So
But
Ty.
good for them. Hopefully
and
this
Sammy.
one works out and he does not have a third engagement on AEW.
Second.
No, this will be third.
He didn't
If he
actually.
did it again.
He didn't actually propose to Ty on TV.
Yeah, but
Oh, well, his last name is Guevara.
Oh,
I would have lost that bet.
Would you feel weird that your girl started a wrestling career, used her ex-husband's name, and then you marry her and she's not taking yours?
Yeah.
I'd be
I
like,
don't-
why?
I'd be like, why did you use that like you can literally pick any name in the world and you use your ex-husband's name. I mean, maybe she picked it when they were together, and then she's like, "Well, I'm established as this," but then why change it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny. And then the last bit of news, over the weekend they had that giant con.
C2E2.
C2E2, and
R2D2.
Sasha Banks autograph for the combo was $130.
Yeah, if you want a comp picture with her and Naomi.
No, I thought it was just her.
No, it's her,
130.
Naomi.
Yeah, her
Oh, her.
130 for her and Naomi. Now, I don't know what if you wanted a signature and a picture with Sasha, that might be different than just a picture with
So
Sasha.
I think what they did on this one, and you would know this from going to cons, is where you stand in line for the autograph, and then they have a separate time where you go to a professional area and get your photo done later.
Yeah.
So they're not like standing up and taking photos
so
while
like-
they're at the booth.
Yeah, so like signatures will be 1 to 2, and pictures will be 5 to 6.
Yes. And she required everyone to stay 3 feet from her, and
Yeah.
nobody was allowed to be anywhere near her during the photos.
Some pictures looked like the guy was 8 feet away,
Yeah.
which that sucks. But
I'm torn on this.
yeah,
So, and we talked about this before the podcast. In one aspect, if I'm paying that much to meet you, I'm not asking for physical contact, but
Yeah.
I'd like to at least stand near you.
yeah, at least stand relatively next.
Yeah, I don't want a photo where it looks like I have to Photoshop space out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But also, there's tons of photos out there of guys who just act like they're at their fucking high school prom and they're getting photos with female talent where it's inappropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could say no touching, but you can stand next.
Now this is where I stand on it, and I'm not saying I'm the say I'll be all of this or whatever the fucking phrase is when now that I've been kind of doing a fair share of meet and greets and working with talent. One of the things I like to do, and I will definitely make sure, I kind of forgot this weekend over icons, and I fucking hate myself that I forgot to do it. But 9 times out of 10, if I'm with a female talent, I say, hey, are you cool with contact? If you want a photo, like, how do you want to do it? Like, I want to make sure they're comfortable.
Mhm.
Because to me, if a guy goes and he takes a photo where he wants to stand behind her and put his arms around her waist,
That's ridiculous.
as someone who's a handler, I'm not letting that go
Yeah.
down. Like, I'm not taking a photo like that, like, for you. And they don't want to play the bad guy and be like, excuse me, sir, can you not do that? Because they're expecting you to essentially play the heel if need be. If someone's standing at their table too long or being inappropriate or cutting line, it's your job to be the person to be like, yo, you got to go back.
Yeah, handler, yeah.
They don't want to be the one who has to be the one to ruin a fan's day and then be told that they were an asshole to a fan.
But like, if you're in line, you should know if the line's long and just a bunch of people behind you. Go in, say hello, say a little bit, then go. And after there's no one behind you, then talk as long as they'll talk to you.
Absolutely.
But-
yeah, it is a fine line where you want everyone to have the time with
respect
their
their-
talent.
yeah.
But so I agree with the no contact and her being uncomfortable with fans. She's expressed to be in the past. She's not cool with fans
Yeah.
coming up to her restaurants or hotels.
If you're not comfortable with taking pictures of someone, that's fine. You're afraid of COVID. That's also fine. Don't agree to a photo shoot.
Yeah.
Say that in a chat. You don't want to do a photo shoot,
Or-
then don't do it. No, that's no big
or
deal.
Let people know before they part
Yes.
with their money and stand in line forever that my boundaries might be a little bit different than what you're used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that's not to say like I'm not saying like don't be all over me. That should go without saying. Like don't
If you're
don't
listening to this
scoot
and
me
you're a
around the
wrestling
waist like
fan
there's a
and you
problem.
go to a meet and greet with a female
Yeah.
talent, take a photo with them like it's your mother.
Yeah,
You're not gonna be sexual with your
A
mother.
handshake's all right, or a high five or something. Yeah,
A
don't-
hand on the shoulder,
yeah,
maybe.
Don't put your hand on their ass. or
Don't
nothing.
no waist. Don't go around the
Yeah.
waist. Don't be touched. You know what I mean? Like, don't be. It's not your girlfriend.
Yeah. Now, if you walk over and they put their arms around you, if they initiate, then okay. But
Yeah.
the most will not do that.
Yeah. Just be respectful.
Yeah.
That's all
don't
I
know.
got.
It's I do. My favorite thing is the Triple H meme where he's pointing.
I
at
think
her from
I think
afar.
that's how you should take photos with fans now. You should do at least one or two words.
You gotta stand 8 feet apart.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that with Frank Bo, where I'm gonna have someone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how can you add another screen so we
Yeah.
can make this picture?
that'd be great.
Maybe I'll do it with the Mecca. I'm like, can I get a photo with the Mecca? But I need you to take the
That would
photo
be
of him, take the photo of the blank screen, and then take a photo of me, and then I want to
Yeah.
Photoshop.
So you look like a mile apart.
Yeah, like I got a photo with the Mecca this weekend, and
Uh.
it's just like the Sasha Banks.
And Ruda is just there with a tape measure, making sure you're appropriate distance
Oh,
apart. That'd be
I'm
great.
doing. Yeah, we're
we
doing.
could do it with Adina. She'll probably be up for it. Can we
Oh,
take a
that'd
Sasha
be
Banks photo?
hilarious.
Yeah, I'm doing it this weekend. I'm getting a photo with somebody this
It'd be
weekend.
funny if someone had like a huge ruler measuring the feet.
All right,
A
Andy. What,
yardstick.
yeah, what do you
Yeah.
get the plug?
PPW, which you did a pre-show for. So if you want to check that out, that is this Saturday.
Oh, and we
So-
recorded that with the onboard microphone on the laptop, which
Yeah,
is
it
cool.
happens. That
So my bad to PPW for that awful dog shit quality. It won't happen for the next one. I do
Yeah.
apologize.
So that is the Saturday, the 17th, right?
Yeah.
And we defending the TV title against Killian Murphy.
The 13th.
Okay, 13. Sorry, I was a little off. Killian Murphy, Griffin McCoy, and Rembrandt. 4-way should be very good. Hopefully, still a show there. I'm not saying. And then
A lot
Sunday,
of good matches on that card.
Sanctuary versus Philly Mike. So I'm looking forward to both matches.
Yeah, it's gonna be good weekend. Good
Fun
weekend.
weekend coming up. Fun weekend coming up.
Brian.
This is an off week for Murder My Dude, but our Mormons My Dude episode is still around from a bombing in 1985. A lot of the history of the Mormon Church was in question during this case. It's almost like a national treasure meets true crime kind of story. It's a lot of fun. Back catalog all over the place there. We've had 100. This is our 138th episode. 130.
Wow.
Yeah, so we've done quite a bit. Very famous true crime stories, maybe ones you've never heard of before. Like this one's a little more obscure. There's actually a Netflix show about it, so it's not that obscure. But yeah, you can always look up our back catalog. Wherever you find this podcast, if you're listening to the audio version, look up Murder My Dude and you'll find us too.
That'll do it for Tornado Tag Podcast. I already said our stuff there twice already, iwepnetwork.com. Check out the rest of our podcasts on that network. Also, help us out with a subscribe over YouTube. Leave a review. Follow us on all social media, and we have ways to support. Check the links below, linktree.com or just the website itself. Last one here. We'll get in the chat before we go out. If you're here live, leave a little review on the way out. Now's your chance now. You'll have some time in the music to leave a review and tell us what you thought of the show. Good luck, Andy. Retain that belt. Your buddy, little Nate, will be there. Hope to see you Sunday.
Okay.
And hope to see you Sunday as well. Are you coming both days? Are you coming Saturday and Sunday? Are we getting a twofer of our favorite people? Little
double
I
shot.
thought you said it'd work.
I don't know.
Oh, I forget.
Yeah, but hopefully we'll.
Thank you.
If not, we'll see you Sunday.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. We're looking forward to it. That'll do it for Tornado Tag Podcast. We'll see you next time. Vince, that's not your money. Stop touching it. Stop touching that money, Vince.
God damn it.